You can't even do simple housework anymore. You're useless to us. I agree. Let's fire this housekeeper already. Finally, I can get rid of this old hag. These cruel words come from my husband, mother-in-law, and daughter. I'm sitting in a wheelchair while they stand in front of me, smirking, waiting for me to react. If you're going to treat me like this, I won't hold back anymore. You'll regret it, I say firmly. My name is Anna Taylor, and I'm 30 years old. I work as a freelance writer from home and also take care of the household. I got married 2 years ago and now live with my husband Jared, his teenage daughter Maya, and my mother-in-law. Jared is 5 years older than me. We met 3 years ago through a dating app and hit it off quickly since we both love movies. 6 months after we started dating, he proposed, and we got married soon after. However, there was one big challenge in our marriage, Maya. She's Jared's daughter from his previous marriage. When we got married, she was 10 years old, now a teenager. She doesn't accept me and seems to hate me. At first, she ignored me whenever I tried to talk to her. Now, she openly mocks me. For example, one day, she came home from after-school activities and threw her gym clothes at me. I need these tomorrow, so wash them, she demanded. Confused, I said, don't you have another set? These won't dry in time even if I wash them now. But she yelled, shut up and do it. If it's not ready tomorrow morning, I'll tell Dad and Grandma. Good luck. Then, she stormed off to her room. I ended up taking her clothes to the laundromat that evening. As I stood there waiting for them to dry, I felt a deep sense of sadness. I knew blending into this family would be hard, but I never imagined it would hurt this much. Maya, will you ever treat me normally? Even if I can't be your mother, I just want us to have a regular conversation, I thought to myself. Still, I tried to stay positive, hoping things would eventually improve. But Maya isn't my only problem. My mother-in-law dislikes me just as much. She's been cold toward me since the beginning of my marriage. When I returned home from the laundromat that night, she was waiting at the door. Where have you been? Why isn't dinner ready? She scolded. I'm sorry, the side dish is ready. I'll prepare the rest now, I replied. Don't make excuses. Were you out wasting time? She snapped. No, I had to take Maya's gym clothes to the laundromat, I explained. Oh, so now you're blaming Maya? You really love shifting the blame, don't you? I tried to defend myself, but she dismissed me. Just get dinner ready, Jared will be home soon, and Maya must be hungry. Yes, ma'am, I said quietly and went to the kitchen. This kind of treatment is common. My mother-in-law blames me for everything, no matter how small. It used to make me cry when I was newly married, but I've learned to tolerate it. Still, the emotional scars remain. What hurt me the most was being compared to my husband's ex-wife. Her name was Michelle, and my mother-in-law often compared me to her, saying things like, Michelle could have done this better. Michelle's cooking was delicious. She was a kind and caring wife. I wish Michelle would come back. According to Jared, Michelle cheated on him, which led to their divorce. I know my mother-in-law loves Jared deeply, so I don't understand why she keeps praising the woman who caused the divorce. If someone hurt my beloved child, I would probably dislike them, but I can't focus on that right now. I need to figure out how to get along with my mother-in-law and Maya. How can I live in this house and handle these relationships every day? It's hard, and it feels like a lot of pressure, but I'm determined to do my best for my husband, whom I love. I didn't complain to Jared about his mother or Maya. Instead, I asked him for advice on how we could get along better. One evening, I sat down with him and said, Jared, are you listening? Your mom and Maya scolded me again today. He barely looked up from his phone and replied, I'm listening. I keep telling you not to worry about them. I know, but we're living together now. We need to figure out how to get along. You should think about that too, I said, trying to make him understand. Still not looking away from his phone, he replied lazily. That's when I asked him seriously, please, I need your advice on this. I get it, they don't like me, but your mom keeps comparing me to Michelle. You know Michelle, right? She says Michelle was a better wife than me. She's always saying that. You need to understand how it feels from my side. I really want to have a good relationship with her. Jared replied, well, it'll work out eventually. Time will sort it out. That's not helpful. That's nonsense. I'm being serious here. He said, just try to get along with my mom and Maya, put in the effort, and it will work out. Jared patted my shoulder and said, good night, then pulled the covers over himself. I wasn't sure if he was actually asleep or just pretending. No matter how much I called his name, He didn't respond. The next morning, while I was making breakfast, Maya came down from her room. I handed her the gym clothes she had asked for. Here you go, Maya. These are the gym clothes you wanted from yesterday. Are you listening to me? I asked. Maya took the clothes and said, these are from yesterday. Shut up. I hear you. I'm ignoring you on purpose. Don't you get it? Ignore me? Couldn't you at least talk to me? What? You want me to say thank you or something? Maya sighed and grabbed the clothes from my hands. You're so annoying. You act like you're my mom. You shouldn't have married Dad. That's too much, Maya. Ugh, you're so irritating. You always make me so mad in the morning. I can't stand it. She didn't touch the breakfast I made but ate the bread my mother-in-law had bought. Then she made her grandmother go out to buy more food before leaving for school. I went to see her off, but she didn't even acknowledge me. I thought about eating the leftover breakfast, but when I got to the living room, I saw the dishes I had made were gone. Where are my dishes? I asked in confusion. Behind me, I heard a small laugh. It was my mother-in-law, smiling. Did you do this? Yes, it looked so bad, and Maya didn't want it, so I threw it away. Why would you do that? Terrible? You're the one who can only cook such bad food. It's your fault. No matter how much I tried to defend myself, my mother-in-law kept insulting me, attacking me without stopping. Later, she followed me to the grocery store, and a few hours after that, I had the worst experience of my life. On my way home from shopping, I got into an accident. I was rushed to the hospital by ambulance, and the doctors told me that my right leg was paralyzed. I would need a wheelchair for a while. Though my life wasn't at risk, I was hospitalized for a few days. The hospital must have contacted my family, because soon after, Jared, my mother-in-law, and Maya came to visit. I was in a wheelchair, and they stood in front of me. Did they come because they were worried? I was happy to see them and said, thank you all so much for coming. Will your leg heal? Jared asked, looking concerned. I smiled, though my heart wasn't in it. The doctor said it might get a little better, but I'll probably never walk without help again. I see. Well, I guess there's nothing we can do, Jared said, his tone changing. What do you mean? Thank you for everything, Anna. Thank you? Jared looked at me with a strange smile, and I felt confused, unsure of what he meant. He went on, it was short, but I'm glad I married you. You did all the housework and took care of everything without complaining. You also gave us a lot of money to live on. What are you talking about? The atmosphere in the room had shifted. They were all smiling, but there was something unsettling about it. I could see it in their faces. As I sat in my wheelchair, feeling small in front of my husband, mother-in-law, and daughter, they each spoke in turn. You can't even do housework anymore. You're useless to us now, my husband said coldly. I agree. It's time to fire this housekeeper, my mother-in-law added. Finally, I can say goodbye to this old hag, Maya shouted, with no care in the world. The words hit me like a ton of bricks, and I froze in shock. My legs shook with fear. Looking down at me, my husband gave his final blow. I married you to take care of the house. Now that you're in a wheelchair, you're no longer of any use to me. I couldn't believe it. Does this mean divorce? Thanks for taking care of everything. As soon as you leave the hospital, pack up your things and leave our house, he said. He pulled out the divorce papers, already filled out with his part, and slapped them down in front of me. Without waiting for a response, they turned and walked out of the room. The door closed behind them, and I could still hear their footsteps and laughter fading away. That was the moment I knew for sure. He never truly liked me. He married me to take care of his daughter, and that was all. I would never forgive any of them. I signed the divorce papers immediately and called my mother to explain everything. I asked her to take the papers to the city office for me. A few days later, after being discharged from the hospital, I left for my parents' house. I asked my parents to tell my in-laws that I had filed for divorce and to pack up my things. I went straight to my parents' house, telling myself I'd never see them again. I felt a bit relieved and decided to start a new life. 5 years later, I saw a familiar name, Jared, on my phone. I had forgotten to block his number. I didn't answer the call and deleted his contact from my phone. The next day, my former family showed up at my parents' house. When they saw me, they all dropped to their knees. Confused, I wondered what was going on. Then Jared suddenly looked up and started speaking. Please help us. What? What do you mean? Why are you asking me now? Anna, you're the only one I can rely on. What's going on? I need you to lend us some money, we can't survive without it. To summarize, Jared explained that for a while after I left, they had been living comfortably, but when Maya started private high school, things got tight financially. The problem was Maya had been stealing money from the house to buy whatever she wanted. On top of that, Jared's mother was using him to pay for her beauty treatments and luxury items. When their savings ran out, they started borrowing money but couldn't pay it back, so no one would lend them more. Now, the biggest issue was Maya's tuition. Her grades were so bad, she was close to being expelled, and they had to pay extra to keep her in school. Jared lowered his head to the ground, tears in his eyes, as he finished explaining. Please, you must have made a lot of money by now. I'm begging you, even just a little, please lend us some. His mother and Maya were also bowing, begging. I was disgusted. 5 years ago, they kicked me out after treating me horribly. Now they came back to me when they needed money. I could tell they were still just using me. I was so angry that, without thinking, I turned on the full set of the front door and sprayed them with water. What the hell are you doing? All three of them screamed at me again. Hey, what are you doing? It's freezing. Don't get carried away, you old hag. We're begging you for help. This is not how you ask for help. Finally, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I said what I had been feeling all along. Rely on me? I never asked you to rely on me. You used me when it was convenient. And now you want me to help you because you're in trouble? That's rich. How much more are you going to mock me? What? How dare you talk to me like that? We're in serious trouble. I don't care. I don't care if you're starving or what happens to you. Honestly, I'm glad you're struggling. You deserve this. I will never help you. Just deal with your mess yourselves. After that, I slammed the door hard. I locked it and cut them off completely. They stayed outside for a while, yelling and complaining. A neighbor, unable to stand it any longer, called the police. They were taken away for causing a disturbance. The news spread around the neighborhood, and eventually, it reached Jared's workplace. Embarrassed by the gossip, he ended up resigning. Since they couldn't pay Maya's school fees, she was forced to drop out. Now, the three of them are all working to pay off their debts. They still seem to cooperate, but whenever they get together, they blame each other for their problems. Their family bond is falling apart. From my perspective, that's exactly what they deserve. As for me, I'm still working from home, supported by my parents. My leg has improved, and I'm going through rehab to make a full recovery. I'm so grateful to my parents for taking me in after my divorce. From now on, I'm going to live my life to the fullest, for my parents and for myself.
I stared at my phone, refreshing my notifications for the 100th time. Nothing. Not a single happy birthday message from my family. The same family I'd spent years keeping together through countless celebrations, emergencies, and drama. I'm Kylie, and at 30 years old, I thought I knew what to expect from the people who were supposed to care about me most. I was wrong. Still nothing? Lewis asked, sliding a consolatory latte across my desk. As my best friend and coworker, he'd been watching me obsess over my phone all morning. Not even from Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Remember last year when I organized that surprise party for June's birthday? 3 months of planning, coordinating with 20 people, and making sure Dad didn't accidentally spoil it? Lewis nodded, pulling up a chair. And the year before that, when you flew across the country because Braxton broke up with his girlfriend. 4 days of emotional support and ice cream runs. I confirmed, forcing a smile. Don't forget last month's anniversary dinner for Mom and Dad. I had to call 8 different restaurants to find one that could accommodate everyone's dietary restrictions. My phone buzzed, my heart jumped, but it was just a spam email. Maybe they're planning something, Lewis suggested. But we both knew better. My family didn't plan. That was my job. The family coordinator, the emotional glue, the one who remembered every birthday, anniversary, and important date. At 5 o'clock, I packed up my things, still phoneless, except for work emails and social media notifications from distant acquaintances. Luis gave me a tight hug before I left. Want to grab dinner? He offered. I shook my head. I should stop by my parents' house. Maybe they just forgot to charge their phones or something. The drive to their house felt longer than usual. Every red light seemed to mock me, giving me more time to remember all the birthdays I'd made special for everyone else. June's surprise party, Braxton's 25th with the custom cake and video messages from all his college friends. Mom's 50th, where I'd arranged for relatives to fly in from 3 different states. I pulled into their driveway, noting that everyone's cars were there. Thursday family dinner, another tradition I'd started 2 years ago to keep everyone connected. Through the window, I could see them all gathered around the dining table. Mom was passing around what looked like her famous lasagna. Dad was gesturing animatedly about something. June was laughing, while Braxton scrolled through his phone. My hands trembled as I turned off the engine. Taking a deep breath, I walked to the door and let myself in. "Oh, Kylie," Mom looked up, surprised. "We weren't expecting you tonight." "Hi," I said quietly, still standing in the doorway. I thought, well, I was wondering if anyone remembered what day it is. Blank faces stared back at me. "Thursday," Braxton offered, not looking up from his phone. "It's my birthday," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The silence that followed was deafening. "Oh, honey," Mom finally said, but her tone wasn't apologetic, it was dismissive. "You should have reminded us. You know how busy everyone's been." "Busy?" I repeated incredulously. I managed to remember everyone's birthdays, anniversaries, and important dates, despite working full-time. "Don't be dramatic, Kylie," June cut in. "It's just a birthday. We can celebrate another day." Dad nodded in agreement. "You're too old to make such a fuss about birthdays anyway." I felt something snap inside me. Not in an angry way, but in a quiet, final way. Like a thread that had been stretched too thin for too long. "You're right," I said, surprising them with my calm tone. "It is just a birthday, and I am being ungrateful for expecting acknowledgement from my family." "That's not what Mom started, but I held up my hand. "No, really, it's fine. I understand now." I turned toward the door. "Enjoy your dinner." "Aren't you staying?" Braxton called out. "Mom made enough for everyone." I paused, with my hand on the doorknob. "No, thanks. I have plans with people who remembered." As I walked back to my car, I could hear them through the open window, their voices carrying clearly in the evening air. "She's being ridiculous," June said. "So ungrateful," Mom agreed. "If she wanted to celebrate, she should have planned something herself." I sat in my car, letting their words wash over me. They were right about one thing. I should have planned something. I should have planned my exit from being their emotional crutch long ago. Starting now, things were going to change, and they had no idea what they'd just set in motion. The first test of my resolve came 3 days later, when Mom's text lit up my phone. "Don't forget to order the cake for Aunt Emery's birthday next week. The one from that bakery she likes." I stared at the message for a long moment, before putting my phone face down on my desk. Louis glanced over from his cubicle, raising an eyebrow. "They're already asking for favors," I said, turning back to my computer. And nothing. "I'm not doing it." My phone buzzed again and again. I ignored it until lunchtime, when Louis practically dragged me to our usual cafe. "You have 7 missed calls from your mom," he said, checking my phone screen. "Are you sure about this? Watch this," I said, calling her back. She answered on the first ring. "Finally, did you order the cake yet? And remember, Emery likes—" "No, Mom, I didn't order the cake," I interrupted calmly. "I won't be ordering it." Silence. "Then, what do you mean you won't be ordering it? You always handle these things." "Not anymore. I'm sure you can figure it out. The bakery's number is in the family group chat. I posted it last year." "Kylie, stop being difficult. This is about your birthday, isn't it? We said we were sorry." "Actually, you didn't," I corrected her. "But this isn't about that. I'm just busy with my own life right now." I hung up before she could respond. Louis whistled low. "That was ice cold," he said, but he was grinning. "How does it feel?" "Terrifying," I admitted. "But also, right?" The next week passed in a blur of ignored calls and declined invitations. I muted the family group chat after the 15th message, asking where I was and why I wasn't responding. June tried stopping by my apartment, but I'd already warned my doorman not to let any family members up. The real challenge came when Bianca called. "Your mom just called me in a panic," my cousin said. Apparently, Aunt Emery's birthday dinner was a disaster. I took a sip of wine, curled up on my couch. "Oh? The cake was wrong. Half the family got the wrong time because no one sent out proper invitations. And your dad forgot to make a reservation, so they ended up eating at Denny's." "Sounds stressful," I said neutrally. "Kylie," Bianca's voice softened. "What's going on? This isn't like you." "Maybe that's the problem," I replied. "Maybe I've been too much like me and not enough like them. Self-focused and unbothered by other people's feelings." "That's harsh, is it?" "They forgot my birthday, Bianca. Not just forgot. They made me feel guilty for expecting them to remember." A pause. "I know. That's why I didn't go to Emery's dinner. Told them I had food poisoning." I felt a rush of affection for my cousin. "Thanks. So what's the plan?" "You can't avoid them forever." "I'm not avoiding them," I said, straightening up. "I'm just stepping back, let them handle their own lives for once." My phone beeped, another text from Braxton. "Mom's freaking out about planning Dad's retirement party next month. Can you at least help with that?" "No," I typed back. "I'm sure you'll figure it out." "But you're so good at this stuff," he replied immediately. "Time to learn then," I sent. Then muted his conversation too. Bianca was still on the line. "They're going to implode without you, you know." "Maybe they need to," I said quietly. "Maybe we all do." The next morning, I ran into June at my local coffee shop. I'd forgotten she sometimes came here before work. "Finally!" she exclaimed, blocking my path to the counter. "You can't keep ignoring us, Kylie. This is childish." I met her gaze steadily. "I'm not ignoring you. I'm just not managing everyone's lives anymore. Is this really all because of your birthday? Get over it." Several people turned to look at us. I kept my voice low and calm. "No, June. This is about years of taking everyone for granted. About expecting me to be there for everything while never being there for me. About calling me ungrateful for having feelings. That's not." "It is," I cut her off. "And you know what? I'm tired. I'm tired of being the only one who tries, who remembers, who cares. So I'm done." "Done?" Her voice cracked slightly. "Done being the family secretary. Done being the emotional support system. Done being taken for granted." I stepped around her to place my order. When I turned back, she was still standing there, looking lost. "What are we supposed to do?" she asked quietly. I grabbed my coffee from the counter. "Whatever you want, June. That's the point. It's not my problem anymore." As I walked out, I felt lighter than I had in years. The guilt was still there, but it was overshadowed by something else, a growing sense of freedom. 2 weeks into my family detox, Aunt Emery invited me for coffee. Unlike the others, she'd respected my space, so I agreed to meet her at a quiet cafe downtown. "You look different," she said as I sat down. "More relaxed." "I feel different," I admitted, stirring my latte. "How bad was your birthday dinner?" Emery laughed. "Oh, honey, it was like watching a car crash in slow motion. Your mother spent half the night apologizing about the cake. They ordered chocolate when everyone knows I'm allergic. Your father kept checking his phone because he was convinced he had another reservation somewhere else. And Braxton. June tried to organize a group photo, but forgot to bring her camera. Braxton showed up an hour late because no one told him we changed the time." She leaned forward. "But that's not why I asked you here." I raised an eyebrow. "No? I overheard something interesting at that disaster of a dinner. Your mother and June were in the bathroom. They didn't know I was in the stall." My curiosity piqued. "What did they say?" "June's been hiding something from the family. She's 3 months pregnant." I nearly choked on my coffee. "What?" "She's terrified to tell everyone because she's not married. And you know how traditional your parents are. She was telling your mom she'd planned to ask you for help breaking the news. But," Emery spread her hands. "But I'm not available anymore," I finished. "Exactly." Your mother's response was interesting though. She said, We can't rely on Kylie forever. It's time we learn to handle our own problems. I sat back, processing this. That's surprisingly self-aware. Don't get too excited, Emery warned. 5 minutes later, she was complaining about how selfish you're being. My phone buzzed. A message from Braxton. Dad's retirement party is this weekend. Please come. It's falling apart. Speaking of falling apart, I showed Emery the text. Are you going? I shook my head. I can't. If I step in now, nothing will change. Later that evening, Bianca called with a live update from the retirement party planning session. Your mom tried to order catering from that Italian place Dad loves, she reported, barely containing her laughter. Turns out it closed 2 years ago. The one that shut down right after I got food poisoning there. That's the one. June suggested the country club, but no one knows who to contact there because you always handled the bookings. I could hear raised voices in the background. What's that? Oh, Braxton just told everyone he can't make it Saturday because he has tickets to a concert. Your mom's having a meltdown. The concert he bought tickets for 3 months ago. I reminded him about Dad's retirement date back then. Well, apparently no one wrote it down after you mentioned it. More shouting erupted in the background. Hold on, Bianca said. Oh no. What? June just threw up in the decorative plant. I think the stress got to her. Your mom's asking if she's sick and, yep, June just blurted out that she's pregnant. Your dad looks like he's about to pass out. I closed my eyes, imagining the chaos. How's Mom taking it? She's sitting there with her mouth open. Wait. She just asked who's going to help plan the baby shower. Everyone turned to look at the empty chair where you usually sit. Despite everything, I felt a twinge of sympathy. They'll figure it out. Actually, Bianca's voice dropped to a whisper. I think they might be. Braxton just offered to cancel his concert tickets, and June's boyfriend, the baby's father, just arrived. He's offering to help with the retirement party planning. Really? Yeah, it's like, without you there to fix everything. They're being forced to step up. It's messy and disorganized, but they're trying. I heard Mom's voice in the background. We can't keep expecting Kylie to manage our lives. We need to show her we can do better. Did you hear that? Bianca asked. I did, I said softly, but they have a long way to go. True. Oh God, your dad just tried to take charge of the menu planning, but he doesn't know about June's new gluten intolerance or Braxton's girlfriend's nut allergy. The allergies I documented in the family shared notes app? The one no one else knows how to access. Yeah, that one. Bianca paused. They're actually kinda sweet though, in a chaotic way. Your mom's crying, but she's hugging June. Dad's shaking hands with June's boyfriend. Braxton's on the phone canceling his concert tickets. I felt something shift inside me. Not regret, exactly, but recognition. They were trying. Messily, imperfectly, but trying. Keep me posted, I asked. Of course. Oh, and Kylie, they miss you. Not just what you do for them, they miss you. After hanging up, I sat in my quiet apartment, thinking about family, growth, and the painful process of change. Maybe they needed to fall apart a little to put themselves back together the right way. My phone lit up with another text from Mom. We understand now. We're trying to do better. Please give us a chance to show you. I left it unanswered. But for the first time in weeks, I didn't immediately mute the conversation. Dad's retirement party was exactly the beautiful disaster I expected it to be. I watched the chaos unfold through Bianca's steady stream of texts and photos. The cake says, "Happy retirement done. They got your dad's name wrong," she reported. June's trying to scrape off the "Dawn" with a plastic knife. I was curled up on my couch with Louis, who'd brought over pizza and insisted on being my emotional support person for the evening. Your mom just tried to give a speech, another text read. She started crying halfway through because she forgot to write it down. But then Braxton stepped in and said some really nice things about your dad. Actually made everyone tear up. See? Louis pointed at the screen. They're managing. My phone rang. It was June. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. Hey, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I know you don't want to talk to us right now, but I needed to tell you something. I waited. I'm sorry, she continued. Not just about your birthday, about everything. Watching everyone try to pull this party together without you. It made me realize how much we've taken you for granted. June. No, let me finish. My boyfriend Mark, he asked why we relied on you so much. I didn't have an answer. It made me feel awful, because the truth is we just got lazy. We knew you'd handle everything, so we stopped trying. I heard commotion in the background. How's the party going? She laughed wetly. It's a mess. The food's cold. Dad's name is wrong on everything. And Mom forgot to invite half his golf friends. But everyone's helping. Really helping. Not just saying they will and then disappearing. Even Braxton canceled his plans to be here. That's good, I said softly. Yeah, and I'm showing now. The pregnancy, I mean. Mom's been surprisingly great about it. She and Mark's mom are already arguing over who gets to host the baby shower. I told them I can handle it myself. Can you? Honestly? No idea, but I'm going to try. That's what I wanted to tell you. I'm trying. We all are. After we hung up, Louis gave me a knowing look. You're going soft. Am not, I protested. I'm just glad they're figuring things out. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Bianca, this time with a photo. My family was gathered around Dad, who was wearing a slightly crooked, world's best dad hat that looked handmade. Despite the obvious chaos in the background, mismatched decorations, that horrible cake, and what looked like takeout containers instead of catered food, they were all smiling, really smiling. Then came another text, this time from Braxton. Remember when you made that video montage for my 25th? I tried to do something similar for Dad. It's awful, but he cried anyway. I was about to respond when someone knocked on my door. Louis raised his eyebrows as I went to answer it. It was my cousin Bianca, looking flushed and slightly out of breath. Before you close the door, she said quickly, I'm not here as a family messenger. I'm here as your friend. I let her in. She took in the pizza boxes and Louis on the couch. The party's still going, she said, but I needed to tell you something in person. They're changing, Kylie, really changing. I know, I said. June called. No, you don't understand. Your mom started a family calendar app on her phone. Braxton's actually writing down important dates. June's boyfriend is offering to host Thanksgiving this year. Your dad, she paused, smiling. Your dad made a spreadsheet. Louis choked on his pizza. A spreadsheet. For family birthdays and anniversaries, it's terrible. He somehow managed to list August as having 32 days, but he's trying. I sat down heavily. They didn't need me after all. No, Bianca said firmly. They needed you to stop enabling them. There's a difference. She pulled out her phone. Look at this. It was a video from the party. Mom was standing up, glass in hand, looking nervous but determined. I want to thank everyone for coming, she said in the video. This isn't the perfect party our Kylie would have planned. The food's wrong, the decorations are a mess, and yes, that cake has the wrong name. She paused. But we did it ourselves. And maybe that's what Kylie's been trying to tell us all along, that we need to stand on our own feet. The video ended. I looked up to find both Louis and Bianca watching me carefully. They're not perfect, Bianca said gently. They're still going to mess up, but they're trying to be better, not just at planning parties, but at being family. My phone lit up with another text from Mom. We saved you some wrong name cake. It's not much, but it's made with love and a lot of humility. When you're ready, we'd love to share it with you. For the first time in weeks, I felt the hard knot in my chest begin to loosen. A week after Dad's retirement party, my parents invited me to dinner. Just the three of us. No siblings, no extended family. I agreed, but suggested a neutral location, the small Italian restaurant near my office. You look good, Mom said when I arrived, pulling me into a tentative hug. Are you eating enough? I'm fine, Mom. I sat down across from them. Dad was fidgeting with his napkin, something I'd never seen him do before. The waiter came to take our drink orders. providing a welcome interruption to the awkward silence. Once he left, Mom cleared her throat. "We've been doing a lot of thinking," she began, "and talking, mostly about how we've treated you." "Mom, please, let me finish." She reached for her purse and pulled out a small notebook. "I wrote everything down because I didn't want to forget anything important." Dad touched her arm. "Let me, honey." He turned to me. "Kylie, I've been a terrible father." The bluntness of his statement caught me off guard. Dad had never been one for emotional conversations. "All these years," he continued, "I've watched you take care of everyone, plan everything, remember everything. And not once did I stop to ask if it was fair to put that burden on you." "It wasn't a burden," I said automatically. "Yes, it was," Mom cut in. "We made it one. We stopped trying because we knew you would handle everything. We got lazy, entitled." The waiter returned with our drinks. I took a long sip of water, trying to steady myself. "When you stopped," Dad said, "everything fell apart. But you know what? It needed to fall apart. We needed to see what we'd done to you." "Your father spent 3 hours trying to figure out how to use the family calendar app," Mom added with a weak smile. "He called Braxton 4 times for help." "5 times," Dad corrected. "And I still can't get it to sync properly." Despite myself, I felt a smile tugging at my lips. "The sync button is in the settings menu. See?" Mom reached across the table, hesitating before taking my hand. "You still want to help, it's just who you are, but we took advantage of that." "We did more than that," Dad said grimly. "We punished you for having feelings about it. Your birthday," he trailed off, looking pained. "Your birthday," Mom picked up, "was our wake-up call. Not just forgetting it, but how we reacted when you were hurt. We were cruel, Kylie." "Yes," I said quietly. "You were." They both flinched at my honesty. "We can't change the past," Dad said. "But we're trying to change the future. I've started therapy." I nearly spilled my water. "You? Therapy?" He nodded, looking both embarrassed and proud. "Turns out, I have a lot to work through about showing emotions and appreciating family. And I've been meeting with June every week," Mom added. "Really talking, not just about the baby, but about how we can be better as a family. She's teaching me how to use video chat so we can have virtual family meetings when someone can't be there in person." "June is teaching you technology?" "Well, she's trying." I kept holding the phone upside down the first few times. The waiter came to take our orders. In the brief pause, I noticed something different about my parents. They seemed softer somehow, more vulnerable. "We're not asking you to come back and take care of everything," Dad said after the waiter left. "We're asking for a chance to show you we can change, to be the parents you deserved all along. And if we mess up," Mom added quickly, "we want you to tell us. No more silencing your feelings to keep the peace." I took a deep breath. "I need you to understand something. I can't go back to being the family fixer." "We don't want you to," Dad said firmly. "We want you to be our daughter, not our personal assistant. And we want to celebrate your next birthday properly," Mom added, tears in her eyes. "If you'll let us." "That's months away," I pointed out. "We know. We've already marked it in 3 different calendars." Braxton set up phone reminders for everyone. "June's starting a planning committee. She insists on handling it herself." "Poor June," Dad chuckled. "She tried to reserve a restaurant last week and booked a children's party place by mistake." I couldn't help laughing. "She did not." "Oh yes," Mom grinned. "Complete with a ball pit and party clowns." She was mortified when she realized. For the first time in months, the conversation flowed naturally. We talked through dinner, sharing stories of their fumbling attempts at independence, their small victories, and amusing failures. They weren't perfect, far from it, but they were trying. As we finished our meals, Dad reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. "We know it's late," he said softly, "but happy birthday, sweetheart." Inside was a card, not a generic store-bought one, but a handmade card covered in awkward drawings and heartfelt words. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And maybe that's what I'd been waiting for all along. The real test came when June went into premature labor at 7 months. My phone exploded with panicked messages at 3 a.m. On my way to Memorial Hospital, June texted. Contractions started. Mark stuck in traffic, scared. Before I could respond, messages poured in from everyone else. Mom was already at the hospital. Dad was trying to coordinate with Braxton. Aunt Emery was calling Mark's parents. I stared at my phone, my old instincts screaming to take charge, to start organizing everyone. Instead, I simply texted June, "I'm here if you need me. You've got this." 10 minutes later, Braxton called. "I know you're not doing the whole family coordinator thing anymore," he said quickly, "but I need advice. Mom's freaking out. Dad's in the wrong hospital because he mixed up Memorial with Methodist. And Mark's still stuck on the highway. What do you think you should do?" I asked calmly. There was a pause. I should probably get Mom some coffee to calm her down. Call Dad and give him the right directions. Maybe call Mark's parents to pick him up, since they know a shortcut to the hospital. Sounds like a solid plan. Really? His voice brightened. Thanks, sis. Oh, and we haven't forgotten about your birthday next month. June's been planning something special, even with the baby coming early. Braxton, she needs to focus on herself right now. Try telling her that. She says she owes you. We all do. After hanging up, I got dressed and headed to the hospital. Not to take charge, but to be present. When I arrived, I found a surprisingly organized scene. Braxton had set up camp in the waiting room, laptop open, with a spreadsheet tracking who was where and when they'd arrive. Mom was actually calm, armed with coffee, and helping Mark's mother distribute snacks. Dad had finally arrived and was coordinating with the nurses about June's birth plan, the one she'd apparently written herself. "Kylie," Mark hurried over, looking frazzled but relieved. "June's asking for you." In the delivery room, June was propped up on pillows, face contorted in pain, but determined. "Hey," she grabbed my hand. "I didn't think you'd come." "Of course I came. You're my sister. I had this whole birthday surprise planned for you." She groaned through a contraction. "Now this little one's ruining it." "Pretty sure this is a better surprise," I smiled. "Need anything?" "Just stay?" "Not to fix anything. Just be my sister." I squeezed her hand. "Always." The next few hours were intense, but I watched in amazement as my family worked together without my intervention. Mom and Mark's mother took turns supporting June. Dad and Mark's father handled the endless paperwork. Braxton kept everyone updated through a group chat he'd created. At 7:43 a.m., my niece entered the world, tiny but fighting. "She's going to need to stay in the NICU for a while," the doctor explained, "but she's strong." As they wheeled the baby away, June caught my hand again. "I get it now," she said tiredly. "Get what?" "Why you stepped back. Watching everyone step up today. It's like seeing a whole new family." Mark came in, followed by our parents. "The nurse says we can visit her in an hour," he announced. "Braxton's already set up a visiting schedule, so we don't overwhelm her." "Braxton did that?" I asked, surprised. "He's really stepped up," Dad said proudly. "We all had to." Mom pulled out her phone. "I've started a group text with all the grandparents and aunts and uncles. Everyone knows to check with Braxton's schedule before visiting. And Mark's sister is handling meal deliveries for when we get home," June added. I didn't even have to ask. I felt tears welling up. "Look at you all, functioning without me." "Not without you," Dad corrected. "Just differently. You're still our heart, Kylie. We just needed to grow our own backbone." Speaking of which, Braxton poked his head in. "Mom, your shift to see the baby starts in 10 minutes. Dad, you're after that. I've got it all color-coded." "Color-coded?" I raised an eyebrow. He grinned. "Learned from the best, didn't I?" As everyone filed out to take their turns visiting the baby, June held onto my arm. "We named her Kylie," she said softly. "Hope that's okay." I stared at her. "You what?" "Little Kylie Rose. Because if she's half as strong and loving as her aunt, She'll be amazing. I couldn't speak past the lump in my throat. Just promise me one thing, June continued. Promise you'll be around to teach her how to stand up for herself, how to love without losing herself, how to be as brave as her aunt. Looking at my sister, exhausted, emotional, but somehow stronger than I'd ever seen her, I realized something. My family hadn't just learned to function without my constant support. They'd learned to be better people because of its absence. I promise, I whispered, hugging her carefully. But something tells me she'll have plenty of good examples to learn from. As my birthday approached, I noticed my family acting suspiciously. Hushed phone calls, secretive texts, and poorly hidden smiles whenever I was around. Even Louis was being evasive. Just let them try, he said when I confronted him. They've been working really hard on this. 3 days before my birthday, June called from the NICU. Can you come by? Baby Kylie's having a good day, and I need to talk to you about something. When I arrived, June was rocking the tiny baby, who was finally breathing on her own. Mark was passed out in a chair nearby. Look who's here, June cooed to the baby. It's your namesake, the aunt who taught us all how to grow up. How's she doing? I asked, gently touching the baby's tiny hand. Better every day, like us. June looked up at me, which is actually why I wanted to talk to you. Mom's probably going to kill me for telling you this, but I can't keep it in anymore. Tell me what? They're planning a surprise party for you, but not just any party. She shifted the baby carefully. Everyone's been working on it for weeks. Dad's been practicing a speech. Mom's learning to bake your favorite cake from scratch. She's ruined like 6 attempts already. Braxton's putting together a video compilation of everyone talking about how you changed them by stepping back. I sat down heavily. June. Wait, there's more. You know how they forgot your birthday last time? They've been keeping a journal, all of them, writing down every time they caught themselves taking someone for granted, every time they remembered to step up instead of waiting for someone else to handle things. They what? It was Dad's idea, actually. His therapist suggested it. They're going to give it to you at the party. She smiled. I wasn't supposed to tell you any of this, but I wanted you to know how much thought they're putting into it. Not because they feel guilty. Well, maybe a little, but because they finally understand. The baby made a small noise, and June adjusted her position. The old them would have hired a party planner, ordered an expensive cake, and thrown money at the problem. The new them, they're doing it all themselves. Messily, imperfectly, but genuinely. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. Need your opinion on something not birthday related. Wink wink. What's your favorite flower? Asking for a friend. I showed June the text, laughing. They're not very subtle, are they? Not at all. Mom's been stress baking for weeks. The hospital staff is getting really tired of her practice cakes. June grinned. But you know what? She's not giving up. The old mom would have just bought one after the first failed attempt. Another text came through, this time from Braxton. Hey sis, random question. What's that song you always used to play on road trips? The one about family, totally not for anything specific. Oh God, June giggled. He's been trying to make this playlist for days. Called me at midnight last week, asking if you preferred acoustic or original versions of songs. They don't have to do all this, I said softly. No, they don't. That's what makes it special. They want to. June carefully stood up, walking to the window. You know what Mom said when I told her I was naming the baby after you? She said, good, maybe this Kylie will teach us lessons too. My phone kept buzzing, with increasingly obvious, casual questions from family members. Dad wanted to know my favorite childhood memory. Aunt Emery was asking about my preferred cake flavors. Even Mark's parents were getting in on it, inquiring about my favorite restaurants. They're going to be so mad at me for spoiling the surprise, June said, not looking particularly concerned. But I wanted you to have time to prepare, to really see how much has changed. Why? She turned to face me, baby Kylie, sleeping peacefully in her arms. Because last time, on your birthday, you were expecting the bare minimum and got even less. This time, I want you to see every bit of love and effort they're putting in, every imperfect, handmade, slightly messy attempt to show you they've changed. My phone lit up again, a photo from Mom of what appeared to be another failed cake attempt, captioned, "This is not your birthday cake," which I'm definitely not making. Look at this, June nodded at my phone. 6 months ago, Mom would have died before showing anyone her failures. Now she's laughing about them, trying again, asking for advice. She carefully placed the baby in my arms. Little Kylie gripped my finger with surprising strength. "So when you go to this party you're not supposed to know about," June said softly, "remember that every wobbly decoration, every off-key song, every slightly burnt cake is a testament to how much they've grown. How much you taught them by simply stepping back and letting them fall and get back up." Looking down at my tiny namesake, I felt the last bits of hurt and resentment melting away, replaced by something warmer, something like hope. "Besides," June added with a mischievous smile, "watching them try to keep this secret has been absolutely hilarious. On my birthday, I played along with their surprise, letting Bianca guide me to the community center where my family waited. The moment I walked in, I had to fight back tears. Handmade decorations covered the walls, not perfect, but made with obvious care. A banner reading, 'Happy Birthday, Kylie,' hung slightly crooked, with what looked like Braxton's attempt at drawing flowers in the corners. Surprise! Everyone shouted, and I noticed even their positioning seemed planned, arranged in a way that wouldn't overwhelm me. "I know you knew," Mom whispered as she hugged me. June confessed. "But look how hard everyone tried anyway." She led me to a table where 3 cakes sat side by side. The first one's lopsided, the second one's a bit burnt on the bottom, but the third one, I finally got it right. "They're all perfect, Mom." Dad stepped forward, clearing his throat. He pulled out a piece of paper that was clearly well rehearsed and wrinkled from multiple readings. "Kylie," his voice shook slightly, "when you were 5, you broke your favorite toy. Instead of crying, you tried to fix it yourself. That should have been our first clue about who you'd become, the fixer, the supporter, the heart of this family. But we took that heart for granted." He paused, collecting himself. "Then you taught us the hardest lesson of all, that sometimes love means letting people figure things out for themselves." Braxton stepped up next, laptop in hand. "I made something. It's not as good as your videos, and the editing's kinda rough, but..." He pressed play. The screen showed clips of family members speaking directly to the camera. "Remember when I couldn't figure out how to coordinate Dad's retirement party?" June's recorded self said. "That's when I realized how much you did for us. But look at me now. I managed to plan Mark's birthday last week, only set off the smoke alarm once." The video continued, with similar confessions and stories from everyone, even extended family members. Each clip showed not just appreciation, but evidence of growth. Mom mastering video calls, Dad organizing family meetings, Braxton creating shared calendars. And now, Mom announced as the video ended, "We have something else." They presented me with a leather-bound journal. Inside, I found dated entries from each family member. Today, I remembered to ask June how she was feeling instead of waiting for Kylie to check on her. Mom scheduled my own doctor's appointment without asking anyone to do it for me. Braxton called my daughter just to talk, not to ask for anything. Dad, the entries continued, documenting their journey from dependence to responsibility. "We're still riding in it," June said, bouncing baby Kylie gently. "Every day we try to be better. And we're not done yet," Dad added. "But we wanted you to see the progress." Luis appeared with a gift bag. They even wrapped presents themselves. You should have seen the paper cuts. The party flowed naturally, not perfect, but real. When Mom's cake turned out to be slightly salty, because she'd mixed up sugar and salt measurements, everyone laughed instead of trying to hide it. When Dad's playlist accidentally included some heavy metal song he'd mistaken for my favorite, he just shrugged and started dancing anyway. Near the end of the evening, Aunt Emery pulled me aside. "You did something remarkable," she said. "You made them grow up by stepping back. That's real love." "They did the work themselves," I replied. "Because you gave them the chance to." She smiled. "Look at them now." I looked around the room. Dad was helping clean up without being asked. Mom was actually sitting down, letting others handle things. June was showing Braxton how to properly hold the baby. Everyone was pitching in, working together, no one waiting for someone else to take charge. "There's just one thing," Mom said, approaching with a small box. "We know it's your birthday, but we wanted to give you this." Inside was a key. "It's to the house," she explained. "Not because we expect you to always be there, but because we want you to know you always can be. Not as our organizer or fixer, but as our daughter, sister, aunt, just you." "We had to learn the difference," Dad added, "between wanting you around and needing you to handle everything." Baby Kylie made a small noise, and June placed her in my arms. "And this little one needs to learn from the aunt who taught us all how to stand on our own feet." Looking around at my imperfect, trying, growing family, I finally felt it. The balance I'd been seeking. They hadn't just learned to function without me, they'd learned to let me exist as myself. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," Mom said, hugging me carefully around the baby. "Thank you for teaching us how to give you the gift you really needed, the chance to just be our Kylie." And in that moment, surrounded by crooked decorations, salty cake, and the people who'd learned to love better by loving less perfectly, I knew we'd all received exactly what we needed.
I stared at the Thanksgiving invitation in my hand, my fingers trembling with a mix of rage and determination. After 2 years of being labelled the family thief, I was finally ready to serve justice. And it wouldn't be with turkey and cranberry sauce. My name is Remington, and the day my stepmother Vanessa destroyed my life started like any other Tuesday at Duncan Enterprises. I was reviewing quarterly reports in my office when Dad burst through the door, his face twisted with an anger I'd never seen before. "How could you?" He slammed a stack of papers on my desk. "Your own family?" "Dad, what are you talking about?" "Don't play innocent. Vanessa found the transfers. $500,000, Remington. Siphoned into offshore accounts." I felt the blood drain from my face. "That's impossible. I would never—" "Save it." His voice cracked. "The evidence is right here. Your signatures, your computer access logs, everything. Those must be forged. Dad, please." I stood up, reaching for him, but he stepped back like I was contaminated. "Security will escort you out. Don't come back. And don't expect an invitation to any family events until you come clean and return every penny." That was the last real conversation I had with my father. Vanessa had played her cards perfectly, the devoted stepmother who'd accidentally discovered the evidence while reviewing company finances. My siblings weren't much better. Flynn avoided my calls, and Thea sent a text that still makes my stomach turn. "How could you do this to Dad after everything he's done for you?" I spent months in a haze of depression and anger until I met Grace at a coffee shop. She overheard me muttering about proving my innocence and mentioned she was a private investigator. That chance encounter changed everything. "Your stepmother's story has more holes than Swiss cheese," Grace said during our first official meeting. "The timing of the transfers, the way the evidence appeared, it's too neat, too convenient. Can you help me prove it?" She smiled, tapping her laptop. "Already started digging, but you should know. This won't be quick or cheap." "I don't care about the money." I leaned forward. "I want my family back. I want Vanessa exposed for what she really is." That was 18 months ago. Now, holding the Thanksgiving invitation Thea reluctantly extended, I knew it was time. Grace had built an airtight case against Vanessa, revealing a web of fraud that went far beyond framing me. My phone buzzed. Speaking of Grace, "Got the final piece," she said without preamble. "Bank records showing Vanessa's original transfers, the ones she used as templates to frame you. You ready for this?" I took a deep breath. "More than ready. Did you send everything to Elijah?" "Your ex-boyfriend, the accountant?" "Yeah, he's reviewing it now. Says the numbers don't lie. Vanessa's going down. I hung up and opened my laptop, staring at the email I'd drafted to my father. The subject line was simple. The truth about Thanksgiving 2021. My finger hovered over the send button, but I couldn't do it. Not yet. This needed to be done in person, where Vanessa couldn't squirm her way out. My doorbell rang, making me jump. Through the peephole, I saw Thea, shifting nervously on my welcome mat. I hadn't seen her in person since that Tuesday. "Hey," she said when I opened the door. "Can we talk?" She looked smaller somehow, more fragile. I stepped aside to let her in, my heart pounding. "I've been having doubts," she blurted out. "About Vanessa, about everything." "What kind of doubts?" "She's been acting strange lately, secretive. And last week I overheard her on the phone talking about moving money around. It reminded me of, you know." I fought to keep my voice steady. "Are you saying you believe me now?" Tears welled in her eyes. "I don't know what to believe anymore, but I miss my sister. And if there's even a chance we were wrong," I wanted to hug her, to tell her everything would be okay. Instead, I said, "Come to Thanksgiving dinner. Watch what happens. That's all I'm asking." She wiped her eyes and nodded. "Flynn might be willing to listen too. He's been asking questions about the company finances." As I watched her leave, I felt a surge of something beyond revenge. Hope. In 3 days, I would walk into my family's home with a briefcase full of evidence and a heart full of justified fury. Vanessa thought she'd written the end of my story that Tuesday. She had no idea she'd only written the beginning. I picked up my phone and texted Grace. "It's time. Let's finish this." Grace's office looked exactly like you'd expect a private investigator's workspace to look. Organized chaos of papers, multiple monitors, and enough coffee cups to fuel an army. I watched as she pulled up file after file on her largest screen. "Your stepmother's been busy," Grace said, clicking through documents. "Look at this pattern of transactions. Every third Friday, like clockwork, money moves from Duncan Enterprises to shell companies in the Cayman Islands." The same way she framed me? Similar, but sloppier. "She's getting confident, making mistakes." Grace pointed to a series of numbers. "These transfers started 6 months before she accused you. Classic setup." My phone buzzed. Elijah calling. I put him on speaker. "Rem, you're not going to believe this," he said, his accountant's precision mixing with obvious excitement. "I cross-referenced those shell companies Grace found. Guess who owns the majority stake in Pacific Ridge Development?" "Pacific Ridge?" I leaned closer to the phone. "Our biggest competitor?" "Bingo. And guess when they acquired that massive contract we lost last year?" 2 weeks after I was forced out," I whispered, the pieces clicking into place. "Exactly. Vanessa didn't just frame you. She's been actively sabotaging the company, making millions on both ends." Grace was already typing. "I can prove the connection. Give me an hour." I spent that hour pacing, making calls and building our case. My hands shook as I dialed Flynn's number, remembering Thea's words about him asking questions. He answered on the 4th ring. "This better be important, Rem." "Remember that Pacific Ridge deal? The one that made no sense?" A pause. "What about it?" "I need you to look at some numbers. Quietly. Without telling anyone. Especially Vanessa." "Rem," he sighed. "I can't get involved in your vendetta. It's not a vendetta when I can prove everything. Please, Flynn. You're head of operations. You know something's wrong with the company's finances." Another pause. Longer this time. "Send them to my personal email. I'm not promising anything." Grace printed everything we had. Bank statements, transfer records, ownership documents. The stack of papers grew until it filled an entire briefcase. "Your stepmother's going to try to discredit these," Grace warned. "We need backup copies, witnesses, everything bulletproof." "Already on it," Elijah said, walking through the door with his own stack of papers. "I called in a favor from my firm's forensic accounting team. They've authenticated everything." Seeing him again still felt strange. We'd ended things when work got complicated, before Vanessa showed up. Now here he was, helping me take her down. "Why are you doing this?" I asked him quietly while Grace made copies. Because I knew you back then. Knew how much the company meant to you. The Remington I knew would never steal from her family. My phone buzzed again. A text from Thea. V asking questions about you. Says you might try something at Thanksgiving. Be careful. She's getting nervous, Grace said, reading over my shoulder. Good. Nervous people make mistakes. Speaking of mistakes, Elijah pointed at his laptop screen. Look what I found in the company's archived emails. It was an email chain between Vanessa and someone at Pacific Ridge, dated 3 weeks before she accused me of theft. They were discussing removing obstacles and consolidating power. This is it, Grace said. The smoking gun. She planned everything. There's more, Elijah continued typing. Remember Corey, the family lawyer? His signature is on some very interesting documents. Corey? But he's been with the family forever. And he's been helping Vanessa hide money for at least 2 years. Probably getting a cut. I sank into a chair, overwhelmed. My father trusted them both completely. That's why it worked, Grace said gently. The best cons always come from people you trust. We spent the next 3 hours organizing evidence, making copies, and planning our approach. Flynn texted back. Just reviewed everything. We need to talk. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. Carter's Diner. It's happening, I told Grace and Elijah. Everything's finally coming together. Remember, Grace cautioned, Vanessa's cornered. That makes her dangerous. Watch your back until Thanksgiving. I nodded, clutching the briefcase. 2 days until Thanksgiving. 2 days until I could reclaim my life, my family, my reputation. As I left Grace's office, another text came through from an unknown number. Back off now, or what happens next is your fault. Last warning. I showed it to Grace, who was walking me to my car. Save it, she said grimly. Add it to the evidence. And Rem, don't go anywhere alone until Thursday. I drove home in the dark, checking my rearview mirror at every turn. The briefcase sat heavy on my passenger seat. 2 years of work, proof of betrayal, and my ticket back to everything I'd lost. Tomorrow I'd meet Flynn. Then, Thanksgiving dinner would become a very different kind of family reunion. Carter's Diner was nearly empty at 7:55 a.m. I slid into a booth near the back, positioning myself to watch the door. Flynn arrived exactly on time, looking exhausted and carrying a thick manila envelope. You look like hell, I said as he sat down. Spent all night going through company records. He rubbed his eyes. Why didn't I see it before? Because you weren't looking for it. None of us were. The waitress brought coffee. Flynn waited until she left before opening his envelope. The Pacific Ridge connection was just the beginning, he said, spreading papers across the table. Look at these equipment purchases from last year. We paid triple market rate through shell companies that all trace back to Vanessa, I finished. And Corey. They've been bleeding the company dry. Flynn's hands shook as he lifted his coffee. Dad's retirement fund, the expansion plans, everything we've worked for, it's all at risk. That's why I need your help on Thursday. It's not that simple, Rem. Vanessa's got dirt on everyone. Last night she hinted she knows about my gambling problem from college. The one you got help for 10 years ago? That's nothing compared to what she's done. Maybe not, but... Flynn's phone buzzed. His face went pale reading the message. What is it? Someone broke into my office last night, files missing. She knows we're talking. I pulled out my phone to call Grace, but Flynn grabbed my wrist. Wait, there's something else you need to know first. About Mom's old shares in the company. Before he could continue, the diner's door chimed. Elijah walked in looking urgent. I'd texted him the location as backup just in case. We've got trouble, he said, sliding into the booth. Vanessa's called an emergency board meeting for Wednesday. She's trying to push through some kind of restructuring before Thanksgiving. Flynn swore under his breath. She's going to transfer everything to the offshore accounts. Once that happens... It won't, I cut in, because we're going to stop her, together. Count me in, a voice said. We all turned to see Thea standing by our table, her face set with determination. I followed Flynn here, and I want to help. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Flynn pulled out his phone. I'm calling Dad, he said. He needs to know. Not yet. I interrupted. Vanessa watches him too closely. One wrong move and she'll destroy everything before we can prove it. She's right, Elijah said. We need to present everything at once when she can't spin it or hide it. Thea sat down next to me, her eyes filling with tears. I'm so sorry, Rem, for not believing you, for everything. Later, I said, squeezing her hand. Right now, we need to focus. We spent the next hour planning. Flynn would stall the board meeting. Thea would distract Vanessa, while Elijah and I recovered the stolen files. Grace would finish documenting the money trail. As we wrapped up, my phone rang. Grace again. You need to see this, she said without preamble. Remember that anonymous tip about company sabotage? I traced it. It came from Corey's office. The family lawyer? Why would he? Because he's having second thoughts. Just got an email from him wanting to meet. Says he has proof of Vanessa's original plan. I looked at my siblings and Elijah. Change of plans. We're meeting Corey first. Be careful, Flynn warned. This could be a trap. That's why you're all coming with me. I stood up. Strength in numbers. We left the diner separately to avoid attention. As I walked to my car, I noticed a black SUV with tinted windows parked across the street. The engine started as I reached for my keys. Get in, Elijah said, appearing beside me. You're not driving alone. The SUV pulled out, following us as Elijah navigated through side streets. Call Grace, I told him. Tell her to meet us at the backup location. And Flynn? I turned to look at my brother in the back seat. Those Mom's shares you mentioned, what about them? They're supposed to be split between us kids, he said. But Vanessa convinced Dad to delay the transfer, said it was for tax purposes. More like control purposes, Thea added bitterly. Keep us dependent on her goodwill. Elijah made a sharp turn, losing our tail. Corey would have handled those share transfers. If he's really willing to talk, then we might have everything we need, I finished. The whole picture, finally. We drove in tense silence, each lost in thoughts of betrayal and justice. Tomorrow we'd meet Corey. The next day was the board meeting, then Thanksgiving. The end game was approaching faster than any of us had planned, but for the first time in 2 years, I wasn't facing it alone. The backup location turned out to be an old storage unit Grace used for sensitive meetings. Corey was already there when we arrived, pacing nervously between stacks of boxes. You brought the whole cavalry, he said, eyeing my siblings and Elijah. Start talking, I replied coldly. Why help Vanessa frame me? He pulled out a USB drive. Because she had leverage, still does. But this... He held up the drive. This is my insurance policy, and now it's yours. Grace plugged the drive into her laptop. Documents filled the screen. Emails, contracts, photos. 2 years of carefully documented betrayal. She approached me before your mother died, Corey said. Had plans to take over the company. I refused at first, but then she discovered my indiscretions. What kind of indiscretions? Flynn demanded. The kind that cost you your law license, Grace answered, still scanning documents. Misappropriated client funds. She caught you stealing. Corey nodded miserably. She promised to keep quiet if I helped her. It started small, backdating some documents, hiding some transactions. Then she wanted more. Like framing me, I said. That wasn't the original plan. She wanted to discredit all 3 of you kids, gain complete control, but you were asking too many questions about the Pacific Ridge deal. Thea gasped, pointing at the screen. Is that Dad's signature? Forged, Corey confirmed. Vanessa's been forging his signature on documents for months. The board meeting tomorrow? She's planning to use a forged resolution to transfer everything offshore. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Where are you? Vanessa says you're causing trouble. We need to talk. She knows, Elijah said, reading over my shoulder. We need to move fast. Grace was already copying files. These prove everything, the forgeries, the shell companies, even recordings of her threatening Corey. Why come clean now? I asked Corey. Because she's getting sloppy, desperate. Yesterday she threatened my family directly. I've got a grandson now. His voice cracked. Some lines you can't uncross. Suddenly, Flynn's phone lit up with alerts. "She's moved up the board meeting. It's starting in an hour." "That's not possible," Thea protested. "The bylaws require 24-hour notice." "Unless there's an emergency," Corey interrupted, "which she just manufactured. Look." He pulled up a news alert on his phone. Duncan Enterprises' stock was plummeting on rumours of financial irregularities. "She's crashing the company's stock to force an emergency meeting," Elijah explained. "Once she gets that resolution passed." "We're done," I finished. "Everything goes offshore." Grace handed me a flash drive. "Complete copy of everything. Get to that meeting. I'll handle the rest." "Handle what?" I asked. "Let's just say the SEC and FBI are very interested in Pacific Ridge development. Been building that case for months as backup." We split up fast. Flynn and Thea headed straight to the office. Elijah drove me, while Grace took Corey to meet federal agents. "Wait," Corey called as we left. "There's one more thing. About your mother's shares. Vanessa didn't just delay the transfer, she destroyed the original documents, but I kept copies in my personal safe. The real ones, with your mother's signature." "Where?" I demanded. "My office. Third drawer down, behind the false back. The combination is your mother's birthday." We raced through traffic, my heart pounding. 1 hour to stop Vanessa from destroying everything my family had built. My phone buzzed again. Dad calling. This time I answered. "Where are you?" he demanded. "Vanessa says—" "Dad, listen carefully," I cut in. "Go to Corey's office right now. Third drawer, false back. Mum's birthday. You need to see something before the board meeting." "What are you talking about?" "Please, Dad. For once, just trust me. Look in that drawer before you let Vanessa do anything." Silence. Then, "You have 15 minutes. Elijah parked illegally outside the office building. Security tried to stop us, but Flynn had already cleared our access. The elevator felt impossibly slow. When it opened on the executive floor, we found chaos. Board members were arriving looking confused and angry. Vanessa stood by the conference room, her perfect mask slipping as she saw me. "You're not welcome here," she started to say. "Actually," my father's voice rang out, "she is." He emerged from Corey's office, holding papers in trembling hands. "Would you like to explain these, Vanessa? The real share transfers? The forged signatures?" Vanessa's face went white. "Tom, I can explain." "Save it for the FBI," Grace said, stepping off the elevator with 2 suited agents. "They're very interested in hearing all about Pacific Ridge development. I watched my stepmother's perfect world crumble in real time. But this wasn't the end, just the beginning of a very interesting board meeting. And Thanksgiving was still coming. The board meeting lasted 6 hours. By the time it ended, Vanessa had been removed from her position, the FBI had seized company records, and my father looked like he'd aged a decade. "I still can't believe," he kept saying, staring at the evidence spread across the conference table. "All this time." "Dad," I said gently, "we need to talk about tomorrow, about Thanksgiving." He looked up, confused. "Thanksgiving, with everything that's happened? We need it more than ever," Thea interrupted. "The whole family knows about the dinner. If we cancel now, it'll look like we're hiding something," Flynn finished. "The company's stock has already taken a hit. We need to project stability." I watched my father absorb this. The proud man who'd built Duncan Enterprises from nothing, now facing the biggest crisis of his life. "She'll be there," he said quietly. "The FBI released her on bail an hour ago." "Good," I replied, surprising everyone. "Let her come." Later that evening, we gathered at my apartment, me, my siblings, Elijah and Grace, to plan the final act. "Vanessa's lawyers are already spinning this," Grace reported, hanging up her phone. "They're claiming she was trying to protect the company from internal theft. Still trying to pin it on me." I laughed bitterly. "Even with all the evidence?" "She's desperate," Elijah said. "The FBI found offshore accounts we didn't even know about. She's facing serious prison time." My phone lit up with a text from Vanessa herself. "You think you've won. Tomorrow will be interesting. Hope you're ready for some family secrets to come out." Flynn read it over my shoulder and swore. "She's going to try something at dinner." Let her, I said. We've got one card left to play. Thea looked up from her laptop. The media's going crazy with speculation. Dad's getting calls from every major business publication. Which is exactly why tomorrow needs to be perfect, I insisted. One last family Thanksgiving before everything changes. We spent hours preparing. Grace set up discreet recording devices, legal in our state with one-party consent. Elijah coordinated with the FBI agents who'd be parked outside. Flynn and Thea worked on seating arrangements to keep Vanessa isolated. Around midnight, another text came, this time from Dad. Can you come over? Need to talk. I found him in his study, surrounded by old family photos. One showed Mom holding me as a baby. Thea and Flynn crowded around, all of us laughing. I should have seen it, he said without looking up. The signs were all there. She fooled everyone, Dad. Not you. He finally met my eyes. You saw through her and I chose her over my own daughter. Dad, let me finish. When your mother died, I was lost. Vanessa seemed like an anchor. She knew exactly what to say, exactly how to handle everything. I thought she was saving me. Saving the company. She manipulated you. Yes. He picked up a photo of Mom. Caroline would be so ashamed of me. Mom would understand, I said softly. And she'd want us to fix this. Together. He nodded, then pulled out a folder. There's something you should see before tomorrow. Something about your mother's last wishes that Vanessa made me hide. As I read the documents, my hands started shaking. Does anyone else know about this? Only Corey. It's why Vanessa needed him so badly. We have to tell Flynn and Thea. Tomorrow, he said. Let's tell everyone tomorrow. I left his house around 2 a.m., my mind racing. When I got home, I found Elijah waiting on my doorstep. Couldn't sleep, he explained. Kept thinking about tomorrow. Want to help me cook a turkey at 2 a.m.? He smiled. Just like old times. We worked in comfortable silence, preparing dishes for the next day. Around 4 a.m., as the turkey roasted, Elijah spoke up. Whatever happens tomorrow, you've already won. You know that, right? Have I? I looked at him. The company's in chaos. My father's devastated, and my stepmother's probably plotting revenge right now. But you've got your family back. The truth is out. That's what you wanted. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a group text from Grace. New development. Call ASAP. I put her on speaker. Her voice was tense. Vanessa just booked a private jet for tomorrow night. To a non-extradition country. She's planning to run, Elijah said. Not before Thanksgiving dinner, I replied. She's too proud. She'll want one last chance to hurt us all. The sun was rising as we finished cooking. In 12 hours, we'd all sit down for the most important dinner of our lives. I had no idea what Vanessa would try, but for the first time in 2 years, I wasn't afraid of her. Let her come. Let her try her worst. The truth was finally on my side. Thanksgiving Day arrived with a cold drizzle that matched the mood perfectly. I pulled up to my father's house at exactly 4 p.m., Elijah beside me with the turkey and recordings safely stowed in the trunk. FBI's in position, Grace texted. 3 cars, full surveillance. She makes a run for it, they'll know. The house looked exactly as it had 2 years ago, the last Thanksgiving before everything fell apart. Thea met us at the door, her face tight with tension. She's already here, she whispered. In the living room with Dad, acting like nothing's wrong. We could hear Vanessa's laugh floating down the hallway, that perfect, practiced sound that had fooled us all for so long. Is everything set? I asked quietly. Thea nodded. Flynn's got the documents ready. Grace's equipment is hidden. Dad knows his part. We walked into the living room, where Vanessa sat perched on the arm of Dad's chair like she owned it. She wore an expensive red dress and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Remington, darling. She stood, arms outstretched. I'm so glad we can put this unfortunate business behind us and celebrate as a family. Cut the act, Vanessa, Flynn said from the doorway. We all know about the private jet. Her smile flickered but held. Can't a woman have backup plans? Especially when she's being falsely accused by her own family? "Dinner's ready," Dad announced, his voice strained. "Let's move to the dining room." The table was set perfectly, Vanessa's influence still visible in every carefully placed fork and crystal glass. We took our seats, Dad at the head, Vanessa to his right, me directly across from her. Elijah and my siblings filled in the remaining spots. "Shall we say grace?" Vanessa suggested sweetly. "Actually," I cut in, "I think it's time we talked about Mom." The room went silent. Dad's hand shook as he reached for the folder hidden under his placemat. "Now, darling," Vanessa started, "is this really the time?" "It's exactly the time," Dad interrupted. "Caroline's last wishes need to be heard." "What last wishes?" Flynn asked. Dad opened the folder. "Your mother's final amendment to her will, the one Vanessa convinced me to hide." Vanessa's perfect mask cracked. "Tom, think about what you're doing." "Mom left controlling interest in the company to us kids," I announced, "jointly and immediately, not to Dad, not to be held in trust. The papers Vanessa had us sign, they were illegal." "That's absurd," Vanessa snapped. "Tom, tell them." "It's true." Dad's voice was heavy. Caroline knew. She knew I might be vulnerable after she was gone. She wanted to protect the company, protect our children's inheritance. So, when Vanessa married Dad, Thea realized, she had no real power at all. Unless she got rid of me, I finished, discredited me, turned everyone against me. Vanessa stood suddenly, her chair scraping back. "This is ridiculous. I won't sit here and listen to these lies." "Sit down!" Dad's voice cracked like a whip. "There's more." Flynn pulled out his phone, playing a recording. Vanessa's voice discussing kickbacks with Pacific Ridge executives. Then another, her threatening Corey. And finally, her original plot to frame me, recorded by Corey himself. "You really should be more careful who you trust," I told her, "especially lawyers with guilty consciences." She laughed, but it was brittle now. "You think these recordings change anything? I still have enough dirt on everyone in this room to—" "To what?" Elijah asked. "The FBI has your files. Your offshore accounts are frozen. That private jet you booked, grounded by federal order." "Face it, Vanessa," I said quietly. "It's over." She looked around the table, finding no allies. Then she smiled. A real smile this time, vicious and cold. "You want to talk about family secrets?" She turned to Dad. "Tell them about the real reason their mother changed her will. About your gambling debts. About the woman in Seattle." "We know," I cut her off. "Dad told us everything this morning. The affairs, the debts, all of it. Mom knew too. That's why she protected us. But she also forgave him," Thea added. "Which is more than you'll ever understand." Vanessa's face contorted. She reached for her water glass, but her hand knocked it over instead, sending water cascading across the pristine tablecloth. "This isn't over," she hissed, standing again. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." "Actually," Grace said, walking in from the kitchen with 2 FBI agents, "we do. And so do the federal prosecutors." Vanessa looked at the agents, then at the door, calculating. "Don't," I warned. "Running only makes it worse." She straightened her spine, smoothed her dress. "I want my lawyer." As the agents led her away, Dad bowed his head. "Some Thanksgiving dinner." "Actually," Flynn said, "I think it's exactly what we needed. A chance to clear the air, to be honest with each other, to be a family again," Thea added. I looked at the ruined table setting, the scattered papers, the empty chair where Vanessa had sat. "So," I said, managing a small smile, "who wants turkey?" The hours after Vanessa's arrest passed in a blur of federal agents, phone calls, and cold turkey sandwiches. Around midnight, the house finally emptied except for immediate family. We sat in the living room, exhausted but unable to sleep. "The press is having a field day," Flynn said, scrolling through his phone. "Stock's actually up in after-hours trading. Market likes that we caught the fraud early." "Early?" I couldn't help but laugh. "It's been 2 years." "Could have been worse," Grace said, packing up her surveillance equipment. "You should see some of my other cases." Dad stood by the fireplace, staring at Mom's portrait. I need to make this right. All of it. You already started, Thea assured him. The truth's out. That's what matters. My phone buzzed. A text from Corey's lawyer. Client willing to testify. Full cooperation in exchange for leniency. Vanessa's not getting out of this one. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. We all tensed. It's just Elijah, Grace said, checking the security camera feed she'd installed. And he's brought pizza. Thought we could use a real dinner, Elijah said when we let him in, since the turkey got cold during all the excitement. As we gathered around the coffee table with pizza and what was left of the wine, Dad cleared his throat. There's something else we need to discuss. About the company. Flynn sat up straighter. The board wants an emergency meeting tomorrow. Yes. But this is about leadership. Dad looked at each of us. Your mother was right. It's time for the next generation to take over. Dad, you don't have to, I started. I do. He paused, struggling. I've been hiding from my mistakes behind Vanessa's efficiency, letting her take control because it was easier than facing what I'd done to this family. Thea moved to sit beside him. We all made mistakes. We all believed her. Not all of us, Flynn said, looking at me. Rem knew, and we didn't listen. Water under the bridge, I said, but Dad shook his head. No, we need to address this, starting with your position in the company. My heart skipped. What about it? The board wants you back, as CEO. The room went silent. Even Grace stopped packing. I can't, I stammered. You can, Flynn insisted. You're the only one who saw through Vanessa, the only one who fought for the truth. The shareholders will support it, Dad added, especially after today, but there's a condition. What condition? We do it as a family, all of us. He looked at Flynn and Thea. Your mother wanted you to lead together, each with your own strengths. Flynn in operations, Thea in development, you as CEO. A triumvirate, Elijah mused. Actually makes sense from a business perspective. My phone buzzed again, this time an email from the board. Subject line: Emergency meeting agenda, leadership transition. They're not waiting, I said, showing the others. Meeting's at 9 a.m. Then we better be ready, Flynn said. The press will want answers. They'll want more than answers, Grace warned. Vanessa's arrest is just the beginning. There'll be investigations, audits. Let them come, Thea said firmly. We have nothing to hide anymore. Dad stood up, walking to his desk. He returned with 3 envelopes. Your mother wrote these, one for each of you. Asked me to give them to you when you took over the company. His voice cracked. I should have done this years ago. With trembling hands, we each took our letters. Mine felt heavy, Mum's familiar handwriting spelling out my name. Read them later, Dad said softly. When you're ready. The grandfather clock struck 1, its chimes echoing through the house. In 8 hours, we'd face the board. In 24, the story would break worldwide. In a week, the trials would begin. Whatever happens, I said, looking at my family, we face it together this time. Together, they echoed. Grace finished packing and headed out with the last of her equipment. At the door, she turned back. For what it's worth, this is the best possible ending. Truth wins, family reunites, justice served. Is it really ending? I asked. She smiled. No, it's beginning. The hard part comes next. Rebuilding trust, running the company, dealing with the fallout. But you've got something Vanessa never had. What's that? People who actually care about each other, not just power. After she left, we stayed up talking, really talking, for the first time in years. About Mom, about our mistakes, about the future. The pizza got cold and the wine ran out, but nobody wanted to leave. Tomorrow would bring challenges, but tonight, in this room, we were just family again. And that felt like the biggest victory of all. My unopened letter sat in my pocket, waiting for the right moment. Mum's last words to me, preserved until I was ready to lead. Soon, but not yet. Right now, we had plans to make and bridges to rebuild. The morning sun streamed through the boardroom windows as I finished my presentation. 20 board members sat in stunned silence, processing everything they'd just learned about our family's new leadership structure. "Any questions?" I asked, standing confident despite my racing heart. "Several." Barbara, our longest-serving board member, leaned forward. "But first, I want to say what we're all thinking. Your mother would be proud." Beside me, Flynn squeezed my hand under the table. Thea wiped away a tear. "The transition plan is solid," another board member said. "But the media coverage of Vanessa's arrest is already being handled," I interrupted, nodding to our PR team waiting outside. "Full transparency. We show how we caught the fraud, protected the company, and emerged stronger." "Speaking of strength," Barbara said, "the stock's up 12% since opening bell. Market loves a redemption story." The vote was unanimous. As the board members filed out, Dad pulled us aside. "Before you start your new roles," he said, "there's one more thing we need to do." He led us to Mom's old office, untouched since her death, even by Vanessa. Inside, everything was exactly as Mom had left it, down to the half-empty coffee mug on her desk. "Read your letters," Dad said softly. "She wrote them the week before. Well, just read them." My hands shook as I opened the envelope. "My dearest Remington, if you're reading this, you've finally taken your rightful place at the company. I always knew you would, even when others doubted. Your strength isn't just in your business sense, it's in your heart, your ability to see truth when others are blinded by lies. Lead with that same heart. Trust your siblings. They'll challenge you, support you, keep you grounded. Together you're unstoppable. I've left something in my desk for you three to share. Bottom right drawer, behind the false panel. The combination is the day you all played hooky from school to go to the beach. Remember, I love you, my fierce, honest daughter. Mom." I looked up to see Thea and Flynn had finished their letters too. Without a word, I went to Mom's desk, entered the date, 4/16, and opened the hidden panel. Inside was a small box and another note. "Share these equally, not for the company, for yourselves." The box contained 3 keys and a deed to our family's beach house, the one Vanessa had convinced Dad to sell, but apparently hadn't succeeded. "She knew," Flynn whispered. "She knew we'd need a place that was just ours." A knock at the door interrupted us. Elijah with an urgent update. "Vanessa's talking," he said. "Cutting deals. Named every conspirator, every scheme." "Let her talk," I replied. "We've nothing left to hide." "There's more," he continued. "Grace found offshore accounts we missed, millions hidden away." "Not hidden anymore," Thea said firmly. "Every penny goes back to the company." Dad cleared his throat. "I should go. This is your time now." "Stay," I said. "Please, we need your experience, Dad. Just maybe not your taste in wives." He laughed, the first real laugh I'd heard from him in years. My phone buzzed. Grace sending photos of Vanessa in custody, looking nothing like the polished socialite who'd tormented us for years. "The PR team's ready," Flynn reminded us. "Time to face the press." "Wait," I said, touching Mom's coffee mug. "One last thing." I pulled out my phone and ordered 4 tickets to the beach house for the weekend. "We'll need to work on the transition plan," Thea protested. "The company's waited this long," I replied. "It can wait 2 more days while we remember who we are as a family." Walking toward the press conference, I felt Mom's letter in my pocket, her keys in my hand, and her strength in my heart. Cameras flashed as we approached the podium together, not as CEO and executives, but as siblings, as family. "Ready?" Flynn whispered. I looked at my family. All of them. Even Dad standing proudly in the back, and Elijah giving me a thumbs up from beside Grace. "Ready," I said, stepping up to the microphone. "Time to tell our story." Because that's what this was really about. Not revenge, not power, not even justice. It was about truth, family, and the courage to fight for both. Vanessa had tried to write our ending, but she'd only managed to show us our real beginning. I smiled at the cameras, at my siblings, at our future. "Good morning," I began. Let me tell you about Duncan Enterprises, about family, and about coming home. The cameras flashed, the reporters leaned in, and I told our truth, all of it, knowing that somewhere Mom was smiling. This wasn't an ending at all. It was us, finally writing our own story.
The moment Linda grabbed the microphone, I should have known my perfect day was about to shatter. But there I sat, radiant in my white dress, my new husband Craig's hand warm in mine, believing this was finally my moment of triumph. I'm Martina, and this is the story of how my stepmother turned my wedding reception into ground zero for the biggest family explosion of my life. Just moments before, everything had been exactly as I'd dreamed. The fairy lights twinkled across the garden venue, my carefully crafted menu was receiving endless compliments, and even my usually stoic father had tears in his eyes during our dance. "The salmon is divine," Linda announced, standing up and tapping her glass with a silver spoon. Almost as impressive as the fact that my stepdaughter managed to pull off this wedding while her catering business is facing bankruptcy. The crystal champagne flute slipped from my fingers, shattering against the table. Craig's grip tightened on my hand as whispers rippled through the crowd. "Linda, sit down," my father Edison warned, his voice sharp. She smiled that perfect real estate agent smile of hers. "Oh, come now. Everyone should know what they're getting into. Craig's family especially deserves to know that their new daughter-in-law is drowning in debt." "That's enough." Craig stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "This is our wedding day." I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Around me, 200 guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their eyes either fixed on their plates or openly staring at me with pity. "Did you tell them about the missed payments, dear?" Linda continued, her voice dripping with false concern. "Or how you begged the bank for an extension last week?" My best friend Krista appeared beside me, her hand on my shoulder. "Don't listen to her, Martina. She's just trying to hurt you." But the damage was done. I could see Craig's father Paul whispering to his wife, their faces drawn with concern. The caterers I'd hired, colleagues from my early days in the industry, were exchanging glances. My reputation, both personal and professional, was unraveling with each word Linda spoke. "I'm only looking out for everyone's best interests," Linda said, spreading her hands. "It would be irresponsible not to—" "Stop it, Mom!" My stepsister Alyssa's quiet voice cut through the chaos. She stood up slowly, her hands shaking. "Just stop." Linda's perfect smile faltered for just a moment. "Darling, sit down. This doesn't concern you." "I think it does," Alyssa replied, her voice stronger now. She turned to face me, her eyes full of apology. "Martina, I'm so sorry. I should have told you sooner." "Alyssa," Linda warned, but something had changed in her voice. Was that fear? I found my voice at last, pushing back my chair. "Told me what?" The silence that followed felt endless. Linda's face had lost its triumphant glow, replaced by something I'd never seen before. Panic. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately," my father suggested, standing up. "No," I said, surprising myself with the strength in my voice. "No more secrets, no more private discussions where Linda gets to control the narrative." "What were you going to tell me, Alyssa?" My quiet stepsister looked directly at Linda, then back at me. "The truth about where the family money has really been going these past 6 months." Linda lunged for the microphone, but Alyssa was faster. In that moment, watching my stepmother's perfectly manicured hands grasping at air, I realized everything was about to change. "Don't you dare," Linda hissed, but her usual authority had crumbled. "I've seen the bank statements," Alyssa continued, her voice trembling but clear. "I've seen the withdrawals, the casino receipts, the hidden credit cards." The room erupted in gasps and murmurs. My father's face went pale. "Edison," Linda turned to him, her voice honeyed again. "Don't listen to these ridiculous accusations. I would never—" "Show him the proof, Alyssa," I heard myself say, standing straighter. "Show everyone exactly who's been lying about money problems." Linda's eyes met mine, and for the first time in 15 years, I didn't shrink under her gaze. Instead, I watched as her carefully constructed world began to crumble, just as she had tried to destroy mine. "This wedding is over," Linda announced, grabbing her purse. But as she turned to leave, I saw what she didn't. Not a single person stood to follow her, not even my father. Craig pulled me close, his arms steady around me. "Are you okay?" I wasn't, not even close. But as I looked around at the faces of our guests, no longer pitying but shocked and supportive, I felt something shift inside me. The need for Linda's approval, the constant fear of her judgment, began to fade. "No," I answered honestly, squeezing his hand. "But I think I'm about to be." 3 months before my wedding, I stood in Linda's pristine kitchen, clutching a folder of business projections while she sipped her morning coffee. That day marked my 100th attempt to earn her approval, and my 100th failure. "Honestly, Martina, I don't understand why you insist on this catering venture," she said, barely glancing at my carefully prepared documents. "Your father and I could set you up with a real career in real estate." "My business is real," I replied, fighting to keep my voice steady. "We've catered 3 major corporate events this month alone." She raised a perfectly shaped eyebrow. "And yet here you are, asking for advice about a business loan." "I'm not asking for money," I clarified quickly. "I just wanted your opinion on the expansion plan. Since you've built your own business." "Let me stop you right there." Linda set down her coffee cup with a sharp clink. "Your little cooking hobby isn't comparable to what I've built. Do you know how many properties I sold last year?" Before I could answer, my father walked in, his tie slightly crooked. "Morning, sweetheart," he said, kissing my cheek. "What's all this?" "Just trying to talk some sense into your daughter," Linda sighed. "She's still pursuing this catering fantasy." Dad picked up one of my spreadsheets. "These numbers look impressive, Martina. Is this all from the hospital contract?" "Yes, and we have 2 more corporate clients lined up," I said, grateful for his interest. "That's why I'm considering the loan, to expand our kitchen space." Linda's laugh cut through the air. "Edison, please. She's getting married in 3 months. Shouldn't she be focusing on starting a family instead of playing restaurant?" "I can do both," I insisted, but my voice sounded small even to my own ears. "The way you did both when you burned those appetizers at the Thompson wedding?" Linda's words struck like precise arrows. "What was it they called them? Charcoal squares?" "That was 2 years ago," I protested. "We've grown since then." "Have you?" She stood, smoothing her silk blouse. "Because I heard the Harrison corporate lunch last week was served late. 20 minutes late, to be exact." My stomach dropped. "How did you—" "I have connections, dear. I hear things." She touched my father's arm. "Edison, we should get going. That showing won't wait." Dad hesitated, looking between us. "Maybe we could discuss this more over dinner." "Nothing to discuss," Linda said firmly. "Martina knows I'm right, don't you, dear?" I gathered my papers with trembling hands, decades of similar conversations echoing in my head. The time she'd called my college choice pedestrian. The day she'd described my first apartment as quaint, with that same dismissive smile. "Actually," I said, straightening my spine, "I've already applied for the loan." Linda froze. "You what?" "I applied last week. The bank's reviewing it now." "Without consulting us?" She turned to my father. "Edison, did you hear this?" Dad looked uncomfortable. "She's an adult, Linda. If she believes in her business—" "Oh, please." Linda's voice turned sharp. "When this fails, and it will fail, don't come crying to us. We won't bail you out." "I won't need bailing out," I said, but my confidence was wavering. "Right." She smiled that real estate smile again. "Just like you didn't need help after the Thompson disaster, or after your first location flooded. Face it, Martina, you're not cut out for this." "Linda," my father warned, but she continued. "I'm being kind. Someone needs to be honest with her. This business will bankrupt you, and then what? You'll drag Craig down with you? Shame his family?" I walked out of her kitchen that day with my folder clutched to my chest, her words following me like persistent shadows. But something else followed me too, a quiet determination I hadn't felt before. That evening, Krista found me in my small commercial kitchen, aggressively kneading bread dough. "Rough day?" she asked, hopping onto a clean counter. "Linda," I said, punching the dough harder than necessary. "Ah." She watched me work for a moment. "You know she's wrong about you, right?" I stopped kneading. "Is she?" The loan officer looked pretty skeptical today. Hey. Krista jumped down and grabbed my flower-covered hands. Remember when we catered that wedding in the middle of that freak storm? Everyone said we should cancel, but you found a way. You always find a way. That was different. No, it wasn't. You're good at this, Martina. Really good. Don't let her make you doubt that. I looked around my small kitchen, the gleaming equipment, the organized shelves, the wall of happy client testimonials. Everything I'd built, despite Linda's constant predictions of failure. You're right, I said finally. I wish she could see it too. Maybe she does, Krista suggested. Maybe that's exactly what scares her. I didn't know then how right Krista was, or how Linda's fear would eventually expose itself at my wedding. I just knew that for the first time, I was done trying to earn her approval. Back at my wedding reception, the silence following Alyssa's revelation felt like a physical weight. Linda stood frozen, her perfectly maintained facade cracking at the edges. My father's face had gone from shocked to ashen as he stared at his wife of 15 years. The casino receipts, Alyssa continued, her voice stronger now, show withdrawals of over $50,000 in the past 3 months alone. You went through my personal records? Linda's voice shook with rage. They weren't exactly hidden, Alyssa replied. You left them open on your laptop, multiple times. Craig squeezed my hand as I watched the scene unfold. His father Paul had moved closer to our table, his expression a mix of relief and vindication. I always knew something wasn't right about her, he muttered, just loud enough for me to hear. Linda's eyes darted around the room like a cornered animal's. Edison, surely you don't believe these ridiculous accusations? My father slowly stood up, his hands trembling as he reached for his phone. Show me the proof, Alyssa. Daddy, don't, Linda started, but Alyssa was already pulling out her own phone. I took pictures, she said quietly. Of everything. The bank statements, the credit card bills, the IOUs from the Golden Palace Casino. The crowd of wedding guests had formed a loose circle around us, their earlier discomfort at my supposed financial troubles forgotten in light of this new drama. I should have felt vindicated, triumphant even, but watching my father's face as he scrolled through Alyssa's evidence just made my heart ache. 60,000 in March, he read aloud, his voice hollow, 85,000 in April, 120,000 in May. He looked up at Linda. Our anniversary weekend, when you said you were at a real estate convention. I can explain, Linda said quickly. The market's been difficult. I needed to cover some temporary losses. By gambling away our savings? My father's voice cracked. Krista appeared at my side with a glass of water. Drink this, she whispered. You're shaking. I hadn't even noticed, but she was right. My hands trembled as I lifted the glass to my lips. I was going to win it back, Linda insisted, her composure slipping further. I had a system, I just needed a little more time. Time? Alyssa interrupted. Like the time you spent trying to destroy Martina's reputation, making her doubt herself, all while you were stealing from our family? Linda spun toward her daughter. I was protecting this family. Everything I've done was for yourself, I found myself saying. The words came out clear and strong, surprising even me. It was always for yourself, Linda. The criticism, the manipulation, the constant undermining, it was all to keep everyone focused on our supposed failures instead of your own. You ungrateful little... Linda started toward me, but Craig stepped between us. That's enough, he said firmly. Security will escort you out if necessary. Linda's eyes widened as she realized how many people were watching. Her carefully curated image as the successful, sophisticated real estate mogul was crumbling in front of Phoenix's entire upper society. Edison. She tried one last time, reaching for my father's arm. He pulled away as if her touch burned. How much? He asked quietly. How much in total? Alyssa swallowed hard. From what I've found, just over $800,000. The gasps around the room were audible. My father sank back into his chair, looking suddenly old. I trusted you, he whispered, with everything. Daddy, please, Linda's voice had turned desperate. We can fix this. I'll get help. Security, Craig called, and 2 men in dark suits appeared almost instantly. As they approached, Linda straightened her spine, trying to salvage what dignity she had left. Fine. I'll leave. But remember, Martina, you did this. You destroyed this family. I stepped forward, finally free of the fear that had controlled me for so long. No, Linda. You did that all on your own. They led her away, her heels clicking against the floor in angry staccato. The moment she disappeared, Alyssa collapsed into a chair, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I should have said something sooner. I was scared of her too." I moved to her side, wrapping my arms around my stepsister. "You were incredibly brave tonight. But the wedding, I ruined everything." I looked around at the gathered guests, at Craig standing protective and proud beside me, at my father being comforted by his oldest friends, even at Paul, who now viewed me with respect instead of suspicion. "You didn't ruin anything," I told her. "You just helped us all see the truth." Krista raised her glass. "To the truth," she called out, and slowly, tentatively, other glasses rose to join hers. As the murmur of conversation gradually returned to the reception, I felt lighter somehow. The weight of Linda's judgment, her constant criticism, had lifted. But looking at my father's broken expression, I knew this was just the beginning of a much longer story. The microphone felt heavy in my hands as I stood up. The reception hall had descended into chaos. Clusters of guests whispering, phones discreetly recording, my father still staring blankly at Alyssa's evidence. "Everyone, please," I said into the mic. My voice echoed through the speakers, commanding attention. "I have something to say." Craig touched my arm. "Martina, you don't have to do this." "Yes, I do." I squeezed his hand before facing our guests. "For 15 years, I've lived under Linda's shadow, believing I wasn't good enough, that my business wasn't good enough, that I would never measure up to her standards." The room fell silent. Even the waiters stopped clearing plates. "She told everyone I was facing bankruptcy," I continued, my voice growing stronger. "And you know what? My business did struggle this year. We lost a major client. Our equipment needed expensive repairs. That's not failure. That's reality. That's business." Paul nodded slowly from his seat, his earlier suspicion replaced with something like respect. "But while I was fighting to keep my business alive, being honest with my creditors, making payment plans..." I held up my phone, displaying the proof Alyssa had sent me. Linda was losing hundreds of thousands at the Golden Palace Casino. The large screen behind me, meant for wedding photos, suddenly lit up. Alyssa had connected her laptop, projecting the evidence for everyone to see. "March 15th, I read from the statement. $25,000 withdrawn at 2 a.m. March 16th, another 30,000. March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, 65,000. "That was the day she told me my business plan was amateur," I added, looking directly at my father. "She said I didn't understand money management." Someone in the crowd let out a bitter laugh. "April 3rd, I continued, $40,000. April 4th, 50,000. April 5th, the day of my final wedding dress fitting, 70,000. She spent more at the blackjack table that night than my entire catering business makes in a month." "Oh my God," Krista whispered, staring at the numbers. "But here's the real kicker." I swiped to another document. May 21st, Linda took out a third mortgage on our family home. "Dad, she forged your signature." My father's head snapped up. "What?" "The bank called me yesterday," Alyssa said, her voice shaking. "They were trying to reach Mom about missed payments. They faxed over the paperwork." The projector displayed the mortgage document, my father's clearly forged signature stark against the white paper. "I've already contacted the police," I said, my heart pounding but my voice steady. "They'll be waiting to speak with her at home." The room erupted in gasps and exclamations. My father buried his face in his hands. "So yes, my business had a rough year," I announced. "Yes, I took out a loan to expand. And yes, I'm proud of every single struggle because I faced them honestly. I didn't steal. I didn't lie. I didn't destroy my family's trust." Craig stood beside me, his arm around my waist. "That's my wife," he said proudly into the mic, drawing scattered applause. Linda spent years making me feel small, I continued, making all of us feel small. She criticized my dreams while gambling away our futures. She questioned my integrity while committing fraud. I turned to my father, who looked years older than he had this morning. Dad, I'm so sorry, but you needed to know. He nodded slowly, tears in his eyes. I should have seen it. She fooled everyone, Alyssa said softly. She was really good at it. The sound of police sirens filtered in from outside. Several guests rushed to the windows, watching as 2 patrol cars pulled up to the venue. Mrs. Fowler? A police officer appeared in the doorway. We received a call about potential fraud charges. She left, I told them, but I can tell you exactly where she's going. The Golden Palace, Alyssa confirmed. It's where she always goes when she's upset. The officers nodded, speaking quietly into their radios before departing. The room felt electric with tension and unfolding drama. Well, Paul said, standing up and raising his glass. I think it's time for a proper toast. To Martina and Craig, who just gave us a wedding reception none of us will ever forget. Laughter rippled through the crowd as glasses were raised. And to honesty, Krista added, however ugly it might be. I looked around at the faces of our guests, no longer judging, no longer pitying, but understanding. Even those who had initially believed Linda's accusations about my business now wore expressions of sympathy and support. The truth really does set you free, I said quietly to Craig. He kissed my forehead. You were amazing. Scary, but amazing. Scary good or scary bad? Scary perfect, he smiled. Now, shall we salvage what's left of our wedding reception? I nodded, finally feeling like I could breathe freely. Yes. But first, I need to make sure Dad's okay. As I walked toward my father, I realized that while this wasn't the wedding day I'd planned, it was exactly the day I needed, the day we all needed, to finally break free from Linda's web of lies. The week after my wedding felt like walking through a minefield of consequences. I sat in my small office at the catering company, staring at my phone as it buzzed with another news alert. Local real estate mogul arrested for fraud and gambling with client funds. A knock on my door made me jump. Come in. Alyssa peeked in, looking exhausted. Dad's asking for you. He's at the house. How is he? I hadn't seen him since the wedding night, when he'd retreated into himself after the police took Linda away. Broken, she said simply. The bank called again. Linda wasn't just gambling with family money, she was using her real estate company's escrow accounts. My stomach dropped. How much? 2 million, maybe more. Alyssa collapsed into the chair across from my desk. The FBI is involved now. I grabbed my keys. Let's go. The drive to my childhood home felt surreal. Police tape still marked the entrance where they'd executed a search warrant 2 days ago. Inside, we found my father sitting in his study, surrounded by stacks of financial documents. The house is gone, he said without looking up. The cars, the vacation property in Sedona, my retirement fund, all gone. We'll figure it out, I said, kneeling beside his chair. He finally met my eyes. Craig's father called. They're pulling their investment from my company. What? But you had nothing to do with... Doesn't matter. The scandal's too big. Nobody wants to be associated with the name. He laughed bitterly. 30 years of building a reputation, destroyed in 1 week. Dad, was I really that blind? He interrupted. Did I just not want to see it? Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Alyssa went to answer it, returning with Krista. Sorry to interrupt, she said, but you need to see this. She held up her tablet, showing a local news website. There was Linda's mugshot, alongside a headline, Disgraced Realtor's Stepdaughter Orchestrated Public Humiliation at Wedding. She's giving interviews from jail, Krista explained, saying you and Alyssa planned this to destroy her reputation because you were jealous of her success. That's ridiculous, Alyssa protested. It gets worse. Krista scrolled down. She's claiming you fabricated the evidence about her gambling to cover up your own financial misdeeds. I felt the room spin slightly. Who's believing this? Some of our biggest corporate clients are getting nervous, Krista admitted. 3 have already called to cancel their contracts. My father stood up suddenly. This is my fault. If I hadn't brought her into our lives. Stop, I said firmly. You're not responsible for her actions. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Craig, looking worried. My parents are asking us to move, he said without preamble. They think staying in Phoenix will hurt my law career. Because of Linda? I felt anger rising in my chest. He nodded. Dad's firm is worried about association. They're offering to transfer me to their Seattle office. You can't be serious. I told them no, Craig said quickly. But things are getting complicated. The media is camped outside our apartment. My clients are asking questions. I looked around at everyone. My father aged beyond his years, Alyssa fighting tears, Krista trying to be strong, Craig caught between loyalty and practicality. I won't let her win, I said suddenly. I won't let her turn us into victims. Martina, my father started, but I cut him off. No, Dad. She spent years making us doubt ourselves, making us feel small, and now she's trying to do it again, even from jail. I turned to Craig. I won't run away. This is our home. The business, Krista began. We'll survive, I finished. We'll be transparent with our clients, show them our books, prove we're nothing like her. Alyssa straightened up. I have all the evidence, everything. We can fight back. It won't be easy, Craig warned. The media loves a scandal. Then we'll give them a different story, I said. Not about Linda's betrayal, but about how a family stands together, how we rebuild. My father looked at me for a long moment. When did you get so strong? I learned from watching you, Dad, before Linda. When you built your company from nothing, when you taught me about integrity and hard work. I took his hand. We can do that again. The room fell quiet as everyone absorbed this. Finally, Krista spoke up. Well, I know where to start, she said, pulling out her phone. The Memorial Hospital contract. They're wavering, but they haven't canceled yet. Let's call them. Right now. Show them we're not hiding. Craig nodded. I'll talk to my firm. Make them understand that standing by us is better PR than running away. And I'll help Dad sort through the financial mess, Alyssa added. There might be assets Linda couldn't touch. Looking around at my family, both blood and chosen, I felt something shift. Linda had tried to destroy us, but somehow she'd only made us stronger. Okay, I said, picking up my phone. Let's get to work. And that's why you should trust us with your corporate events, I finished, standing before the board of directors at Phoenix Memorial Hospital. We've been transparent about our challenges, and we're stronger for facing them head-on. The hospital's CEO, Dr. Roberts, leaned forward. Your stepmother's scandal made headlines, Martina. Our shareholders are nervous. I understand, I said, pulling out my tablet. That's why I brought our complete financial records, client testimonials, and a detailed plan for your upcoming charity gala. The same gala Linda claimed you couldn't afford to cater? Another board member asked. Yes, and I'd like to show you exactly why she was wrong. For the next 20 minutes, I walked them through everything. Our books, our contingency plans, our staff credentials. When I finished, Dr. Roberts smiled. Well, I must say this is the most thorough presentation we've seen. Thank you, but no buts, she interrupted. We're keeping you on. In fact, we'd like to discuss expanding our contract to include the medical conference in September. I practically floated back to my kitchen, where Krista was supervising prep work for a wedding that weekend. They said yes, I announced, causing several staff members to cheer. Of course they did, Krista grinned. You're kind of scary when you're determined. Speaking of scary, a voice called from the doorway. You've got another visitor. Craig stood there with his father Paul, who looked distinctly uncomfortable. Paul, I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. This is unexpected. Could we talk privately? I led him to my office, Craig following close behind. Paul paced for a moment before speaking. I was wrong, he said finally. About you, about everything. Dad's been doing some thinking, Craig added softly. I let Linda's accusations cloud my judgment, Paul continued. But watching you these past few weeks, how you've handled this situation, how you've protected your family while building your business back up. He cleared his throat. Well, I'm impressed. Thank you, I said carefully. But nothing. He pulled out a business card. My firm hosts monthly partner lunches. We've been using the same caterer for 10 years, but their service has gotten sloppy. I'd like to give you a shot at the contract. My hands shook slightly as I took the card. That's very generous. It's not generosity, it's business sense. You've proven yourself trustworthy under pressure. That's rare. After Paul left, Craig pulled me into a hug. See? Things are turning around. Slowly, I agreed. But what about your firm? Are they still pressuring you to transfer? Actually, he grinned, they're making me partner. Dad convinced them my family loyalty during the crisis showed good character. The kitchen door burst open and Alyssa rushed in. Martina, you need to see this. She thrust her phone at me. On the screen was an email from one of Linda's former real estate clients, a major hotel developer. They want to meet with us, Alyssa explained breathlessly. They're planning a chain of boutique hotels and need a catering service that can handle multiple locations. Us? I looked up, confused. Well, I might have shown them some of your work, and mentioned that I've been helping with the business side since everything happened. Alyssa, are you saying you want to work here? She nodded. I'm good with numbers. I caught Mom's scheme, didn't I? And you need someone to handle the business side while you focus on the culinary part. Plus, Craig added, having a former finance major managing the books will make clients feel extra secure. Before I could respond, my phone rang. It was my father. Dad, everything okay? Better than okay, he said, sounding more energetic than he had in weeks. Remember that small property I bought in Scottsdale years ago? The one Linda never knew about? The old restaurant space? What about it? I just had it appraised. It's worth 3 times what I paid for it. If you're interested, it could make a perfect second location for your catering business. I sat down hard in my office chair. Dad, I can't accept that. You're not accepting anything. I'm investing in my daughter's business, properly, legally, with real contracts and everything. He paused. Let me do this, Martina. Let me help you build something honest. Looking around my small office, at Craig's proud smile, at Alyssa's hopeful face, at Krista directing staff through the kitchen window, I felt tears well up. Okay, I said, but we do this right. Full partnership agreement, everything in writing. I wouldn't have it any other way, Dad replied, and I could hear him smiling. After hanging up, I turned to Alyssa. So, future business partner, ready to help me crunch some numbers for this hotel chain proposal? She beamed. Already started a spreadsheet. That's my wife, Craig laughed, always landing on her feet. No, I corrected him, pulling out my laptop. That's my family, all of us, landing on our feet together. The county jail's visiting room was colder than I expected. I sat at the metal table, watching Linda approach in her orange jumpsuit, her perfectly maintained appearance now stripped down to basics. No designer clothes, no expensive makeup, no carefully crafted facade. Well, she said, sitting down across from me, come to gloat? No. I placed my hands flat on the table. I came to return something. I pulled out her old business card, the one she'd given me years ago when I first started my catering company. She stared at it, her jaw tightening. You kept this? It was my motivation, I admitted. Every time I doubted myself, I'd look at it and think about proving you wrong. She laughed bitterly. And now you have. Congratulations. I hear your business is thriving. It is. We just signed the hotel chain contract. With my former clients, her eyes flashed. Alyssa told me, my own daughter, stealing my contacts. She didn't steal anything. They came to us because they trust us. Trust, Linda spat the word. Is that why you're here? To lecture me about trust? I leaned forward. I'm here because I need to understand. All those years of criticism, of making me feel worthless. Was it because you saw this coming? Did you know you were gambling everything away? Something flickered across her face. Pain, maybe, or regret. You don't understand addiction, she said quietly. You're right, I don't. But I understand lying. I understand manipulation. I understand making others feel small to make yourself feel big. Is that what you think I was doing? Wasn't you? She was silent for a long moment, staring at her hands. The first time I went to the casino, It was after your father praised your catering at that Christmas party. Everyone was raving about your food, your business sense, your potential. And that bothered you? It terrified me. Her voice cracked slightly. I'd spent so long being the successful one, the one with all the answers. But there you were, building something real, something honest. While I was... She trailed off. While you were losing everything at the blackjack table, I finished. The more I lost, the more I needed to prove I was still in control, still perfect. She looked up at me. And you were an easy target. Because I wanted your approval. Because you reminded me of who I used to be, before the gambling, before the lies. You had dreams, determination, everything I'd lost. A guard approached, signaling 5 minutes remaining. Dad's rebuilding his company, I told her. Smaller scale, but honest work. Alyssa's amazing with the business side of things, and Craig's family. They've come around. How nice for you all. Her voice turned cold again. One big happy family while I rot in here. You did this to yourself, Linda. Every criticism, every lie, every stolen dollar, those were your choices. And exposing me at your wedding? Was that your choice? Or did my darling daughter plan that all along? Alyssa protected you for months. She tried to get you help. You refused. Linda's hands clenched into fists. She betrayed me. You all betrayed me. No, I said firmly. You betrayed us, and now you're trying to blame everyone else because you can't face what you've done. Time's up, the guard called. I stood, gathering my purse. I didn't come here to gloat, Linda. I came to tell you that I forgive you. She looked up sharply. What? Not for my sake, but for mine. I'm done letting your opinion control my life. I'm done trying to prove myself to someone who never wanted to see my worth in the first place. How dare you? Goodbye, Linda. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. Dad's filing for divorce. The papers should arrive tomorrow. As I walked away, I heard her call after me. You think you're better than me? You think this makes you win? I didn't turn around. Through the heavy door, down the fluorescent-lit hallway, past the security checkpoint, I kept walking. Outside, Craig was waiting in the car. How did it go? He asked as I buckled in. Exactly as expected. I took a deep breath of free air. She's still trying to control the narrative. And you? I'm done with her narrative. It's time to write my own story. He smiled, starting the car. Speaking of stories, wait until you hear what happened at the kitchen today. Your dad stopped by with those investors from Dubai. As Craig filled me in on the latest business developments, I felt the last weight of Linda's influence lift from my shoulders. She would always be part of my history, but she no longer had the power to shape my future. My phone buzzed with a text from Alyssa. Just booked 2 more corporate events. Come celebrate with us. Take me to the kitchen, I told Craig. My family's waiting. He squeezed my hand as we drove away from the jail, leaving Linda and her manipulations behind. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't fighting back. It's simply walking away and building something better. The grand opening banner fluttered in the warm Arizona breeze as I unlocked the doors to our new Scottsdale location. The renovated space gleamed with professional kitchen equipment, elegant dining areas, and a state-of-the-art demonstration kitchen for cooking classes. Ready? Alyssa asked, clipboard in hand. Almost. I adjusted a vase of fresh flowers on the welcome desk. Where's Dad? Parking the car. He's bringing the surprise. Before I could ask what surprise, Krista burst through the door. The hotel chain executives are on their way. Everything ready in the kitchen? Staff's prepped, menus set, and I triple-checked every detail, I assured her. That's my girl. My father appeared, carrying a familiar wooden box. But first, I think we need this. I recognized it immediately. Mom's old recipe box. Dad, you still have that? Found it while cleaning out the house. He set it on the counter. Thought it might belong here now. Craig arrived with his parents in tow. Paul looked around appreciatively. This is impressive, Martina. Very impressive. Thank you. I meant it sincerely. His approval, unlike Linda's, felt genuine and earned. "The first guests are arriving," Alyssa called from the door. What followed was a whirlwind of introductions, presentations, and carefully crafted appetizers. I moved through the crowd, discussing menu options with hotel executives, demonstrating techniques in the show kitchen, watching Alyssa confidently handle the business discussions. During a quiet moment, I opened Mom's recipe box. Inside, beneath her handwritten cards, lay a newspaper clipping I'd never seen before. It was an article about her small catering business, dated just before she died. "She was so proud of that article," Dad said, appearing beside me. "She always said you'd inherit her cooking talent. Why didn't you show me this before?" He sighed. "Linda, she said it would only encourage unrealistic dreams. I should have stood up to her then." "We can't change the past, Dad." "No, but we can learn from it." He pulled out an envelope. "Which is why I want you to have this." Inside was a deed, the building we were standing in, now officially in my name. "Dad, we agreed this would be an investment. And it is. In you. In us." He gestured around the room. "Look what you've built, Martina. Not just a business, but a family. A real one." Across the room, Craig was deep in conversation with his father about expanding our corporate client base. Alyssa was charming potential clients with her detailed business projections. Krista was leading a kitchen tour, her pride in our work evident in every word. "Speaking of family," Dad continued, "there's something else you should know. The DA called this morning. Linda took a plea deal." My hands stilled on Mom's recipe box. "How long?" 5 years, plus mandatory counseling and restitution payments." He touched my shoulder. "Are you okay?" Before I could answer, the hotel chain's CEO approached. "Martina, this is extraordinary. We'd like to discuss expanding our contract to include all our West Coast properties." As I turned to respond, I caught a glimpse of myself in the polished steel of the kitchen wall, standing tall, confident, no longer seeking approval from shadows. "I'd be happy to discuss that," I said. "But first, let me show you something special." I pulled out Mom's recipe for her famous orange lavender macarons. "This is where it all started. Would you like to see how they're made?" For the next hour, I demonstrated the delicate process, sharing stories of Mom's wisdom, of lessons learned, of dreams rebuilt. The executives watched, entranced, as I transformed simple ingredients into something magical. "You know," the CEO said, sampling a finished macaron, "we've been looking for a signature dessert for our hotels, something unique, with a story behind it." "Every great recipe has a story," I replied, thinking of Mom's box, of Dad's support, of the family we'd rebuilt from Linda's ashes. Later, as the successful event wound down, Craig found me in the kitchen. "The hotel chain signed the expanded contract," he announced, "and Paul's firm wants us to cater their national partners conference." "We did it," I said softly. "No," he corrected, wrapping his arms around me. "You did it, by being exactly who you are." I looked around at our new space, at Mom's recipe box proudly displayed, at Alyssa calculating tomorrow's prep lists, at Dad beaming with genuine pride, at Krista directing cleanup with cheerful efficiency. "Ready to lock up?" Craig asked. "Actually," I said, pulling out Mom's recipe box, "I thought we might stay a bit longer. There's this chocolate souffle recipe I've been wanting to try." "At this hour?" I smiled, remembering Mom's words scribbled in the margins. The best recipes, like the best lives, are made with love, courage, and just a hint of rebellion. "Why not? We've got time, family, and a kitchen full of possibilities." Craig grinned, reaching for an apron. "Lead the way, chef." And in that moment, surrounded by the people I loved in the space we'd built together, I knew that this was the success Linda could never understand. This was home.
The cream-colored envelope sat on my kitchen counter like a ticking bomb. Through the translucent paper, I could make out my mother's perfect calligraphy, the same handwriting that had once spelled out, "We're disappointed in you," in my graduation card. I'm Autumn, and at 34, I've learned that family invitations usually come with strings attached, especially when they arrive 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. My phone buzzed. Marissa's name flashed across the screen. "Tell me you got one too." she said without greeting. If you mean Mother's annual guilt trip disguised as holiday hospitality, then yes. You have to come this year. Marissa's voice dropped to a whisper. Things are different. Julian's bringing his new wife. The kitchen suddenly felt too warm. I pressed my palm against the cool marble countertop. Paige, they're actually inviting her to the family dinner? Oh, it gets better. Aunt Prudence is treating her like the daughter she never had. But that's not even the real story. Marissa paused. The family business is in trouble. Big trouble. What do you mean? I overheard Dad and Uncle Roger talking. They're desperate for capital. Something about bad investments and Ezra's mismanagement. They don't know I know, but... She took a breath. They're planning to ask Julian for help. I barked out a laugh. Julian? The same Julian who couldn't manage his own checking account when we were married? Apparently, he's done well for himself. Or at least that's what they think. Another pause. But here's the thing. I've been doing some digging. Remember Grandma's inheritance? The one everyone thought went to charity? My hand froze on the envelope. What about it? It didn't. And you need to talk to Grayson about this. Soon. The doorbell rang, making me jump. Through the window, I spotted my mother's Mercedes in the driveway. I have to go. Prudence just showed up unannounced. Again. Don't let her bully you into anything, Marissa warned. And Autumn? Be careful who you trust. I opened the door to find my mother clutching her designer handbag like a shield. You weren't answering my calls? She said, brushing past me. I've been busy. Too busy for family. She surveyed my kitchen with barely concealed disapproval. I assume you received the invitation? Just now, actually. Good. We expect you to be there. Julian and Paige will be attending, and it would look unfortunate if you weren't present. I crossed my arms. Unfortunate for whom exactly? Don't be difficult, Autumn. This dinner is important for the family. Your father and Ezra have some business matters to discuss, and we need to present a united front. United front? I couldn't help but laugh. Like when you all united behind Julian during the divorce? Her face tightened. That was 3 years ago. It's time to move on. Julian has. Clearly. I picked up the envelope, still unopened. Why now, Mother? Why invite them both this year? She adjusted her pearl necklace, a nervous tell I'd recognized since childhood. Times change. Family is family. And sometimes we need to adapt. My phone buzzed with a text from Marissa. Don't tell anyone you talk to me. Call Grayson ASAP. Mother's eyes darted to my phone. Is that work? Something like that. I smiled, remembering Marissa's warning about the family business. Tell me, how is Ezra doing with the company? A flicker of something, worry, fear, crossed her face before she composed herself. Splendidly. Your brother has always had a head for business, unlike... She trailed off. Unlike me? I finished for her. The daughter who actually majored in finance? I should go, she said abruptly. But you'll be there for Thanksgiving? I thought about Julian and his new wife, about Ezra's apparent mismanagement, about Marissa's cryptic warnings. 3 years of swallowing my pride, of watching my family favor my ex-husband over their own daughter. Of course, I said sweetly. I wouldn't miss it for the world. After she left, I finally opened the envelope. The invitation was typical Mother, elegant, formal, demanding, but it was the handwritten note at the bottom that made my blood boil. Julian and Paige have wonderful news to share. Please dress appropriately. I grabbed my phone and dialed Grayson's number. If what Marissa suggested about the inheritance was true, this Thanksgiving was about to become very interesting indeed. As I waited for him to answer, I smiled, thinking of Julian's smug face, my mother's pearls, and all their carefully constructed facades. They had no idea what was coming. The phone connected. Grayson, we need to talk about my grandmother's will, and I'm going to need every document you can find before Thanksgiving. Grayson's office smelled of leather and old books, a sharp contrast to the modern glass building it occupied. He spread documents across his mahogany desk while I sat across from him, trying to process what he was telling me. "Your grandmother was brilliant," he said, tapping a stack of papers. "She saw this coming years ago." "Saw what coming?" "The family's financial implosion." He handed me a document. "She left everything to you, Autumn. Not your father, not Ezra, you. But she structured it in a way that kept everyone in the dark." I scanned the papers, numbers jumping out at me. My hands started shaking. This can't be right. These figures are very real. Grayson leaned forward. "You own controlling interest in the family business through a series of shell companies. Your father and Ezra have been essentially working for you for the past 5 years without knowing it." A knock at the door interrupted us. His secretary poked her head in. "Mr. Kelly, your next appointment is here." "Give us 15 minutes, Sarah." He turned back to me. "There's more. I received this yesterday." He slid an envelope across the desk. Inside was a letter, the handwriting unfamiliar. "Julian's new marriage isn't what it seems," I read aloud. "Paige Douglas has a history of targeting wealthy men during financial crises. Ask about her time in Boston." "I had my investigator look into it," Grayson said. "Paige has been married twice before, both times to men facing bankruptcy. Both times she walked away with substantial settlements." My phone buzzed. Another text from Marissa. "Ezra's drinking at McCabe's. He's talking too much. Get here now." "I have to go." I stood up. "But first, what do I need to do to take control?" Grayson pulled out another document. "Sign here. Once filed, you'll have full voting rights. But Autumn..." He caught my arm. "Be careful. This kind of power shift can tear families apart." "They already did that," I said, signing the paper. 3 years ago, when they chose Julian over me. 20 minutes later, I walked into McCabe's. The bar was nearly empty at 2 p.m., except for Ezra slumped over the counter and Marissa watching him from a corner booth. "He's been here since lunch," she whispered as I sat down. "Keeps talking about some deal going bad." Ezra looked up, his tie loose around his neck. "Little sister, come have a drink with your failure of a brother." I slid onto the stool next to him. "Rough day?" "Rough year." He laughed bitterly. "You know what's funny? Dad always said I was the smart one, the responsible one. Now look at me." "What happened, Ezra?" He took another drink. "I trusted the wrong people, made some investments that..." He shook his head. "Dad doesn't know how bad it is yet. But when he finds out..." His phone rang. He checked it and went pale. "It's Julian." "Put it on speaker," I said quietly. Julian's voice filled the air between us. "Ezra, we need to talk about that loan. My accountant reviewed the numbers, and I'm afraid I can't help unless I get controlling interest in the company." "That's not possible," Ezra stammered. "Dad would never..." "Your father won't have a choice once the board learns about your creative accounting. Think it over. We'll discuss it at Thanksgiving." The line went dead. Ezra put his head in his hands. "I'm so screwed." "Maybe not," I said, thinking of the papers I'd just signed. "But you need to tell me everything, starting with what Julian knows." "Why do you care?" He looked at me suspiciously. "You got out years ago." "Because I'm your sister, and because I might be the only person who can help you." His laugh was hollow. "You? No offense, Autumn, but what could you possibly do?" I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo of the inheritance documents. His eyes widened as he read. "Holy shit," he whispered. "Does anyone else know?" "Not yet, but they will." I stood up. "Get yourself together, Ezra. Come to my place tonight. We need to talk strategy." As I turned to leave, he grabbed my arm. "Autumn, wait. There's something else you should know about Julian and Paige. I overheard them last week. They're not just after the company. They're after everything. The real estate holdings, the trust funds, all of it." "Let them try," I said, thinking of Grayson's signed papers in my bag. Thanksgiving is going to be very educational for everyone. Walking out, I heard Marissa behind me. "You're really going to do this?" I thought about my mother's dismissal, Julian's arrogance, and years of being underestimated. Watch me. Thanksgiving Day arrived with the subtle tension of an approaching storm. I pulled up to my parents' colonial mansion just as Julian's Tesla parked in front of me. Paige stepped out first, a vision in designer cashmere, carrying what looked like a store-bought pie. "Autumn," she called out with manufactured warmth. "I've heard so much about you." "Funny," I replied, grabbing my own dish from the back seat. "I've heard absolutely nothing about you." Julian appeared beside her, his arm sliding possessively around her waist. "Play nice, Autumn. It's a holiday after all." "Oh, I plan to make it memorable." Inside, the house was already buzzing with activity. Mother had outdone herself with the decorations, crystal, silver, and autumn flowers everywhere. She practically sprinted to greet Julian and Paige, barely acknowledging my presence. "You brought pie," Mother cooed at Paige. "How thoughtful. Autumn, put yours in the kitchen." "Actually," I smiled, "this is Grandmother's special cranberry sauce. You know, from her secret recipe?" Mother's face tightened. She knew as well as I did that Grandmother had only passed that recipe to me. In the kitchen, Marissa was arranging appetizers. "Ezra's in the study with Uncle Roger and Julian," she whispered. "Something about emergency paperwork." Perfect timing. I checked my phone, a text from Grayson. "Documents filed. You're officially in control. Good luck." I found them in the study, heads bent over papers. Julian looked up first, his confidence faltering slightly at my appearance. "Family business," he said dismissively. "Nothing that would interest you." Actually, I perched on the edge of my father's desk. "I think it might." Roger straightened up. "Autumn, please. We're handling some sensitive matters here." "About the company's financial situation? The bad investments? Or perhaps about Julian's generous offer to bail us out?" Ezra's face went white. Father's reddened. "How did you know?" I finished for him. "I know a lot of things. Like how Julian's offer comes with strings that would give him controlling interest. And how Ezra's been cooking the books to hide his mistakes." "That's enough." Father slammed his hand on the desk. "This doesn't concern you." "Dinner's ready." Mother's voice carried from the dining room, cutting through the tension. The dining room was a Norman Rockwell painting come to life. If Norman Rockwell painted passive-aggressive family dynamics, Mother had seated Paige in my usual spot, next to her. I took my assigned seat between Ezra and Marissa. "Before we begin," Mother announced, "Julian and Paige have wonderful news to share." Paige beamed, touching her stomach meaningfully. "We're expecting." The table erupted in congratulations. I watched Julian closely. The slight tightening around his eyes told me this wasn't part of his plan. "How wonderful," I said, raising my wine glass. "Though I have to ask, does this happy announcement have anything to do with the prenup Julian's lawyer drew up last week?" Silence fell like a hammer. Paige's smile flickered. "How dare you?" Mother started, but I cut her off. "Or perhaps we should discuss the real reason everyone's so tense tonight. The company's imminent collapse? Julian's predatory takeover attempt? Or maybe Paige's interesting history with financially troubled businessmen in Boston?" "Autumn," Father's voice boomed. "That's enough." "No, it's not nearly enough." I pulled out my phone and pulled up an email. "This just came in from the board of directors. Shall I read it aloud?" Julian stood up, his face dark. "This is neither the time nor place. It's exactly the time," I said, my voice steady. "Because in about 30 seconds, everyone at this table is going to learn who really controls the family business, and has for the past 5 years." "What are you talking about?" Mother's hand went to her pearls. A text message lit up my phone. "Grayson. Board members notified. Everything's in place." "Well," I smiled, looking around the table. "Since we're all sharing good news, I have an announcement of my own. Grandmother left me everything. The company, the real estate holdings, all of it. And I've spent the last week untangling Ezra's mess, stopping Julian's takeover, and preparing to take my rightful place as CEO." The turkey grew cold as chaos erupted around the table. But through it all, I noticed Paige quietly typing on her phone, her face calculating. Whatever game she was playing, it wasn't over yet. Perhaps, I said, raising my voice above the din. We should have dessert. I hear Paige brought pie. The kitchen became my refuge as the family processed my announcement. I was loading the dishwasher when Paige slipped in, closing the door behind her. That was quite a show, she said, leaning against the counter. I have to admit, I didn't see it coming. Like your pregnancy announcement? Her laugh was surprisingly genuine. Touché, though mine was significantly less expensive. What do you want, Paige? To make a deal. She glanced at the door. Julian doesn't know this, but I've been recording our conversations, including some rather interesting admissions about his plans for the company. I stopped loading plates. And I'm willing to hand them over. For a price, of course. Of course. I turned to face her. Why would you betray your husband? Especially now that you're supposedly carrying his child. She touched her stomach, smirking. Please, I'm as pregnant as that pie I brought is homemade. Julian's not the only one who can play games. The kitchen door swung open. Julian stood there, his face unreadable. Having a nice chat? Just getting to know my sister-in-law better, Paige said sweetly. Funny. Julian stepped in, closing the door. Because I just got an interesting call from my lawyer. Seems someone's been accessing my private files, using your passwords, Paige. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Paige's smile never wavered. Darling, you're being paranoid. Am I? He pulled out his phone. Should we call Robert in Boston? Or maybe Michael in Seattle? I'm sure they'd love to hear from their ex-wife. I moved between them. Take it somewhere else. Stay out of this, Autumn, Julian snapped. You've done enough damage tonight. Have I? Because from where I'm standing, you're the one who tried to steal my family's company while hiding your new wife's interesting past. The door opened again. Marissa poked her head in. Aunt Prudence is asking for more wine and, oh. She took in the scene. Should I come back? No need, Paige said, straightening up. I was just leaving, but Autumn? She reached into her purse and pulled out a USB drive. Consider my offer. You might find the contents illuminating. She brushed past Julian, who grabbed her arm. We're not finished. Oh, but we are. She smiled coldly. Check your email, darling. I've already contacted my lawyer. After they left, Marissa whistled low. Well, that was intense. Get Ezra, I said, turning the USB drive over in my hands. Tell him to meet me in Father's study in 5 minutes. In the study, I found my father slumped in his leather chair, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Why didn't you tell me? He asked as I entered. About the inheritance? Would you have believed me? Or would you have dismissed it like everything else I've ever done? He flinched. I deserve that. Yes, you do. I sat across from him. But right now we have bigger problems. Julian's not going to back down easily, and Paige just threw a wild card into the mix. Ezra slipped in, closing the door. What's the plan? I held up the USB drive. First, we find out what's on this. Then we... A crash from the dining room interrupted us, followed by raised voices. We rushed out to find Julian and Paige in a full-blown argument, Mother trying desperately to maintain decorum. You think I didn't know about the offshore accounts? Paige was saying, her voice carrying. About the money you've been hiding from your own family? Julian lunged for her purse, but she was faster. Paper spilled across the turkey, gravy seeping into what looked like bank statements. Enough, I shouted. Everyone froze. Mother, I suggest you break out the good scotch. Marissa, get Grayson on the phone. Father, secure the doors. No one leaves until we sort this out. You can't keep us here, Julian protested. Actually, I can. This is my house now. Or did you forget that part of Grandmother's will? I picked up one of the soaked documents. Now, let's talk about these accounts, Julian. And maybe you can explain why you've been embezzling from the company while trying to take it over. Paige laughed, a sharp, victorious sound. Oh, he won't tell you. But I will. Every last detail. Mother sank into a chair. her perfect Thanksgiving in ruins. But as I watched Julian's face drain of color, I realized this dinner was turning out exactly as it needed to. "Well," I said, pouring myself a glass of wine. "Since we're all here, why don't we start with the truth? All of it." Father's scotch didn't last long as Paige methodically laid out Julian's schemes. Each revelation hit like a body blow, especially to my mother, who'd championed him for years. The real estate deal in Phoenix? Paige pulled up emails on her phone. A front. The money went straight to his account in the Caymans. "That's a lie," Julian snarled, but his face had gone ashen. "Is it?" I connected my laptop to the dining room TV, displaying the documents from Paige's USB drive. "Because these transfer records say otherwise?" Ezra leaned forward, squinting at the screen. "Wait, those dates. That was right when I needed capital for the expansion project." "Which Julian knew would fail," Paige added. "He was counting on it." Mother slammed her glass down. "I won't listen to these accusations. Julian has been nothing but—" "A con man?" I interrupted. "Let me show you something else." I pulled up another document. "Remember when he convinced you to refinance the summer house to invest in a sure thing? Here's where that money actually went." The room fell silent as the numbers told their story. Julian had been bleeding the family dry for years, positioning himself to swoop in as savior while orchestrating the very crisis he planned to solve. "You bastard," Father whispered, the first time I'd ever heard him swear. "We trusted you." Julian stood up, straightening his tie. "This is all circumstantial and irrelevant. The fact remains that the company needs capital, which only I can provide." "Actually," Grayson's voice came through the speakerphone Marissa had set up. "That's not true. Autumn now controls all voting shares, and as of an hour ago, the board has approved her emergency refinancing plan." "What plan?" Ezra asked. "The one that saves the company without selling our soul to the devil," I said. "Though speaking of souls," I turned to Paige. "Your turn. Why reveal all this now?" She smiled, removing her wedding ring. "Insurance. Julian's not the only one who knows how to play the long game. I needed proof of his fraud before I could safely leave." "Leave?" Julian laughed harshly. "With what? Everything you have is because of me." "No." She pulled out another phone, a burner. "Everything I have is documented evidence of your crimes. The FBI will be very interested in those offshore accounts." The color drained from Julian's face. "You're bluffing. Try me." She stood up. "I've already sent copies to my lawyer. If anything happens to me, it all goes public." Mother buried her face in her hands. "This can't be happening." "Oh, but it is," I said. "And now for the final piece." I pulled up one last document. "Ezra, remember those contracts you signed last month? The ones Julian insisted had to be done immediately?" Ezra nodded slowly. "They were forgeries. The signatures, the notary stamps, all fake. Which means all those toxic assets you thought you'd taken on? They're actually still Julian's responsibility." "You can't prove that," Julian said, but his voice shook. "Wrong again." Grayson spoke up. "We have the original documents, complete with security footage of Julian bribing the notary, who, by the way, has agreed to testify." Julian lunged for the door, but Marissa was faster, blocking his path. "Move," he growled. "Make me," she replied, her phone recording everything. "Enough," Father's voice boomed. "Julian, sit down. Autumn, what do you want?" I looked around the room, at my shattered mother, my relieved brother, my calculating ex-husband, and his duplicitous wife. Years of manipulation and lies, all exposed over turkey and cranberry sauce. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "Julian, you're going to sign a confession admitting to the fraud. In exchange, we won't press charges, provided you return every penny and disappear from our lives." "And if I refuse?" Paige laughed. "Then I release everything. Your choice, darling." "Mother," I turned to her, "you need to decide right now. Stand with your family or with the man who nearly destroyed us." She looked at Julian, then at me. really seeing me perhaps for the first time. I've been such a fool. We all were, Father said quietly. Except Autumn. Marissa. I nodded toward the door. Please ask Grayson to come up. He's been waiting in the driveway with the papers. This isn't over, Julian said, but the fight had left his voice. Oh, but it is, I replied. Happy Thanksgiving, Julian. I hope the pie was worth it. As Marissa left to get Grayson, I caught Paige's eye. She gave me a slight nod, respect from one player to another. In the wreckage of our perfect family dinner, a new understanding was forming. Sometimes the truth is the sweetest revenge of all. Grayson arrived with a briefcase full of documents, looking more like an executioner than a lawyer. The dining room had transformed into an impromptu conference room, dessert plates pushed aside for legal papers. Sign here, he pointed, sliding the confession toward Julian. And here, initial each page. Julian's hand shook as he picked up the pen. This is blackmail. No, Grayson replied coolly. This is mercy. Would you prefer we discuss this with the SEC? While Julian signed, Paige emptied her purse onto the table. USB drives, recorded conversations, photographs. A paper trail of betrayal laid out between the pumpkin pie and coffee cups. I'll need copies of everything, Grayson told her. Already done. She smiled thinly. I learned from the best, didn't I, darling? Mother stood abruptly. I need air. She headed for the patio, but I caught her arm. Stay, I said firmly. You need to hear this part. What more could there possibly be? She asked, her voice breaking. Show them, Ezra said quietly. Show them what grandmother knew. I pulled up the final document on my laptop. This is grandmother's last letter to me, written a week before she died. She knew about Julian's schemes back then. She saw what none of us wanted to see. That's impossible, Julian interrupted. She was sick, confused. She was brilliant. I cut him off. And she had better investigators than you. Read it, Mother. Mother's hands trembled as she took the laptop. Her face crumpled as she read aloud. My dearest Autumn, I'm leaving everything to you because you alone have the strength to protect this family, even from itself. Julian has been embezzling for years, using Roger's trust and Prudence's blindness. They won't believe you if you tell them now. They'll need to learn the hard way, but when they do, be merciful. Family is all we truly have in the end. She knew, Father whispered, all this time. And she trusted me to fix it, I said. Which is exactly what I'm doing. Grayson gathered the signed documents. Everything appears to be in order. Julian, you have 48 hours to initiate the transfers. After that? I know, Julian snapped. He stood up, straightening his jacket with whatever dignity he had left. I suppose you're all very proud of yourselves. Proud? I laughed. No, but satisfied? Absolutely. I'll see myself out. He headed for the door, then turned back. Coming, Paige? She twirled her wedding ring on the table. I'll be filing for divorce in the morning. My lawyer will be in touch. After Julian left, the tension in the room shifted. Mother looked lost. Father appeared decades older, and Ezra couldn't stop staring at the evidence of his near downfall. What happens now? Marissa asked, breaking the silence. Now, I said. We rebuild. Ezra, you'll remain as COO, but with oversight. Father, you can keep your position as chairman, but all major decisions go through me. Mother, yes? She looked up, tears in her eyes. You need to decide if you can accept me as I am. Not as the daughter you wished for, but as the woman grandmother knew I could be. She crossed the room and, for the first time in years, hugged me. I've been so wrong. About everything. Paige stood up, gathering her things. Well, this has been enlightening. Autumn, I assume our deal stands? As long as those records remain sealed, you'll receive the agreed-upon settlement. Perfect. She headed for the door, then paused. For what it's worth, he underestimated you from the start. That was his biggest mistake. After she left, Grayson started packing up his briefcase. I'll file everything first thing tomorrow. Autumn, do you need a ride home? Actually, I looked around at my shattered but surviving family. I think I'll stay. We have a lot to discuss. And pie to eat, Marissa added, trying to lighten the mood. Though maybe not Paige's. Father managed a weak laugh. I could use another drink. As everyone settled back around the table, Mother squeezed my hand. Your grandmother would be proud. I know, I said, thinking of her letter. But the real test isn't exposing the truth. It's what we do with it now. Ezra raised his glass. To new beginnings? To family, I corrected. The real kind. The kind that faces truth together. As we clinked glasses, I caught Grayson watching me with something more than professional interest. Maybe, I thought, there would be more than one new beginning coming from this night of revelations. The next morning, I arrived at the company headquarters before sunrise. The security guard did a double take. He'd never seen a member of the family this early. But everything was about to change. Ezra was already waiting in the conference room, nursing a coffee and looking surprisingly sober. Couldn't sleep either, he asked as I sat down. Too much to do. I spread out the transition documents Grayson had prepared. The board meets in 2 hours. Are you ready? To admit I nearly tanked the company? Not really. To help me fix it, I corrected. The elevator dinged and Father walked in, followed by Grayson. Both carried thick folders. Julian's lawyers have been calling since dawn, Grayson announced. They're threatening litigation. Let them, I replied. We have everything documented. Father cleared his throat. The board members are arriving early. They want answers. Then let's give them some. I stood up as the first board members filed in, their faces a mix of concern and curiosity. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, but was interrupted by a commotion outside. Julian burst through the door, his usual polish replaced by desperate anger. This meeting is illegal. I'm filing an injunction. Sit down, I commanded, surprising myself with the authority in my voice. You're still a shareholder, so you have the right to be here. But interrupt again and security will remove you. The board members murmured, watching the power dynamics shift in real time. As I was saying, I continued, you've all received evidence of systematic fraud within our company. What you haven't seen yet is our path forward. I clicked through a presentation laying out the recovery plan. With each slide, the tension in the room shifted from anxiety to cautious optimism. The offshore accounts will be repatriated, I explained. Ezra has already begun unwinding the toxic investments. And our new compliance protocols? This is ridiculous. Julian stood again. She has no experience. I have an MBA from Wharton. I cut him off. And unlike you, I actually earned it. Mr. Rodriguez, would you like to share the audit findings? The head of accounting stood up. We've confirmed Ms. Autumn's allegations. The fraud extends back 3 years, primarily through... As he detailed Julian's schemes, I watched my ex-husband shrink in his chair. The board members' expressions hardened with each revelation. My phone buzzed. A text from Marissa. Mother's here, with Paige. Moments later, they both walked in. Mother looked like she hadn't slept, but her head was high. Paige carried a laptop. Sorry to interrupt, Paige said smoothly. But I thought the board might want to see this. She connected her laptop to the projector. Julian's private emails about the takeover plan, including some interesting conversations with certain board members. 2 of the older board members suddenly looked ill. That won't be necessary, I said. Those board members have already offered their resignations. Haven't you, gentlemen? They nodded stiffly, gathering their things. You can't do this. Julian tried one last time. The shareholders have already been notified, Grayson interrupted. The SEC too. Face it, Julian. It's over. The vote was unanimous. Within an hour, I was officially CEO, Ezra was confirmed as COO, and Julian was escorted from the building. One last thing. I addressed the remaining board members. This company was built on family values, real ones. We lost sight of that, but never again. Every decision we make from now on will reflect that commitment. After the meeting, Mother approached my new office. "I never thought I'd see you here." "That was the problem," I said, but without bitterness. "You never looked. I'm looking now." She smiled sadly. "Your grandmother's portrait arrived this morning. I thought it belonged here." She gestured to where workers were hanging the painting. Grandmother's eyes seemed to twinkle with approval as Grayson knocked on the door. "The press is waiting," he said. "Ready to face them?" "Actually," I looked at Mother, then Ezra, who'd joined us. "We should do this as a family. The real story isn't about Julian's fraud or my takeover. It's about redemption. And second chances," Mother added softly. As we headed toward the press conference, Grayson caught my arm. "Dinner tonight? To celebrate?" "I'd like that." I smiled, feeling the weight of the past lifting. Ezra grinned. "Just don't serve pie." We laughed, and for the first time in years, it felt genuine. The cameras were waiting, the reporters ready with their questions. But we weren't hiding anymore. The truth had set us free, and the future finally looked bright. The winter sun streamed through my office window as I reviewed the quarterly reports. A knock at the door made me look up. Marissa entered, waving a newspaper. "Have you seen this?" She dropped it on my desk. The headline read, "Former CEO pleads guilty to fraud charges." "Julian finally took the deal," I said, scanning the article. "Better than prison." She perched on my desk. Paige called. She's settling in Miami with her settlement money. Says she's done with marriage for a while. My phone buzzed. Ezra was calling from the factory floor. I put him on speaker. "The new production line is up and running," he reported. "Workers love the profit-sharing program. We're already seeing increased efficiency." "Good. How's the community outreach going?" "Amazing. The scholarship program has 15 applicants already. Grandmother would have loved it." A warm feeling spread through my chest. We'd named the scholarship after her, supporting young women in business. It felt right. Mother appeared in the doorway, looking more relaxed than I'd seen her in years. "Ready for lunch? Your father's waiting downstairs." "Actually," Grayson stepped in behind her, "I was hoping to steal Autumn away. There's something I need to show her." Mother smiled knowingly. "Of course. We'll reschedule." Grayson drove us to a familiar place, the small park where I used to hide after arguments with Julian. But today, it was transformed. A small table had been set up under the trees, complete with champagne. "What's this about?" He pulled out an envelope. "The final paperwork. Julian's shares have been officially transferred back to the company. It's really over." "That deserves a toast." I reached for the champagne, but he caught my hand. "There's more." He seemed nervous suddenly. "I've been offered a partnership at my firm." My heart sank. "In New York?" "No." He smiled. "Here, I'm staying, if you'll have me." Before I could respond, my phone rang. Ezra again. "Turn on the news, now." Grayson pulled it up on his phone. A reporter stood outside our company headquarters. In a surprising turn of events, former CEO Julian Douglas's attempt to flee the country has been thwarted. Sources say his private jet was stopped just before takeoff, thanks to an anonymous tip. I looked at Grayson. "Anonymous tip?" "Paige," he admitted. "She called this morning, said it was her final gift to the family." My phone buzzed with a text from Father. "Come to the house. Important family meeting." At my parents' home, we found the family gathered in the study. Father stood by Grandmother's portrait, holding an old leather journal. "Found this while cleaning out the storage room," he said. "It's your grandmother's diary. There's something you need to see." He opened to a marked page and read, "Today I watched Autumn standing up to that boy who tried to take credit for her science project. She reminds me of myself, stronger than anyone knows. When the time comes, she'll be ready. The others may not see it yet, but she'll save this family from itself." Mother wiped her eyes. She knew you so well. Better than we did, Father added. But we're learning. Ezra raised his glass. To grandmother's wisdom. And to family, I added, looking at Grayson, both old and new. Speaking of new, Marissa grinned. When are you two making it official? Grayson squeezed my hand. Actually, my phone buzzed one last time. A message from an unknown number. You did good, kid. Julian won't bother you again. P. I smiled, putting the phone away. The past was settled. The future was bright. And right here, in this moment, surrounded by truth and love and second chances, everything felt exactly as it should be. So, I looked at my family. Really looked at them. Who's ready to start our own traditions? Mother laughed. As long as it doesn't involve surprise revelations over turkey. No promises, I said, but I was smiling too. The winter sun painted the study golden, warming grandmother's portrait. In the light, she seemed to smile, as if she'd known all along how this would end. Not with revenge, but with redemption. Not with victory, but with understanding. And as Grayson pulled out a small velvet box, I realized some stories don't end. They just transform into something better than we could have imagined. The family gathered closer, ready for one more surprise, one more moment of joy. We were different now. Stronger, wiser, more honest. Just as grandmother had planned all along.
The mahogany conference table stretched before me like a canyon of polished wood, making the single envelope at its center seem impossibly small. $5. That's what my father left me. $5 and a note that read, "For my daughter, who always asks the right questions." I'm Samantha, an investigative journalist, and right now I'm watching my stepsister Kaya bounce in her chair like she just won the lottery. Which, essentially, she has. As stated in the will, Mary, our family lawyer, continued in her measured tone, the Burke estate, including all properties, investments, and business holdings, is to be transferred in its entirety to Miss Kaya Jones. This can't be right. The words escaped my lips before I could stop them. Dad always said what, Sam? Kaya's perfectly manicured fingers drummed against the table. That you were his favorite? That you deserved everything because you're so principled? She practically spat the last word. I gripped the arms of my chair, feeling the leather crack under my fingernails. He believed in responsibility, Kaya. In using wealth to make a difference, not for shopping sprees and Instagram posts. Ladies, Mary interrupted, adjusting her glasses. There's more to discuss. But Kaya was already on her phone, probably texting her entire contact list. Oh my God, wait until everyone hears about this. I need to call my interior designer. The morning sun streaming through the office windows caught the diamond studs in her ears. Dad's last birthday gift to her. I remembered how he'd looked when she opened them, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. There are certain conditions, Mary pressed on, but Kaya was barely listening. Conditions? Whatever, I'll have my people handle it. She stood up, smoothing her designer dress. I need to go plan my celebration party. You'll get the invitation, Sam, if you promise not to be such a downer. I stayed seated as Kaya clicked her way out of the room on her ridiculous heels, leaving behind a cloud of expensive perfume and the echo of her self-satisfied laugh. Samantha. Mary's voice was softer now. Your father was a smart man, I cut in, unfolding the $5 bill. Too smart for this to be everything. Mary's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. Sometimes things aren't what they appear. Like how he appeared to favor his stepdaughter over his own child? I stood up, gathering my bag. Or how he appeared to forget everything he ever taught me about responsibility and purpose. The note, Mary began, is cryptic and useless. I shoved it into my pocket, just like this whole process has been. As I reached the door, Mary called out, Your father kept detailed records of everything, Samantha. Everything. I turned back. What are you trying to tell me? She was already gathering her papers, not meeting my eyes. Nothing specific, just, you're a journalist. You know how to follow a paper trail. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Skylar. How'd it go? Want to grab coffee? I need to go, I told Mary, but paused at the threshold. Did he say anything? At the end? Mary looked up, her face carefully composed. He said you were your mother's daughter, that you'd understand when the time was right. My mother. The investigative reporter who'd exposed 3 major corruption cases before cancer took her. Dad had always said we shared the same fire, the same need to uncover the truth, the right questions, paper trails, understanding. Suddenly, the $5 felt heavier in my pocket. Thank you, Mary. I pulled out my phone to text Skylar back. Coffee, yes, and bring your laptop. We've got some digging to do. As I walked out of the law office, my stepsister's voice carried from the lobby, already planning her celebration. But for the first time since the reading began, I felt something other than anger. Dad had taught me that every story has layers, that truth hides in the details. And if there's one thing I know how to do, it's uncover the truth. I pulled out the note again, studying his familiar handwriting. The right questions. Well, here's my first one. What was my father really trying to tell me with this inheritance? Something tells me $5 is just the beginning of this story. Look at this. I turned my laptop screen towards Skylar, who was already on her 3rd espresso. Dad made monthly transfers to an account labeled Legacy Fund for the past 15 years. We'd commandeered our usual corner table at the daily grind, surrounded by empty coffee cups and scattered papers. 3 days had passed since the will reading, and I'd barely slept. How much are we talking about? Skylar leaned forward, her investigative instincts, honed from years as my research partner, kicking in. That's the thing. I pulled up another document. The amounts varied, but they always ended in 13 cents, every single transfer. 13 cents? Skylar's brow furrowed. That's deliberate, I finished. Dad never did anything by accident. My phone buzzed with another text from Kaya. Party this Saturday. Wear something fabulous. I ignored it. Have you talked to any of his old business partners? Skylar asked, pulling out her notebook. Most won't return my calls, but I did manage to get coffee with Talia yesterday. You know, the woman who used to run the company's community outreach program? The one Kaya fired last week? Bingo. I pulled out my recorder. Listen to this. Talia's voice crackled through the speaker. Your father was obsessed with this idea of empowering women in business. He kept talking about some grand plan, but the board always shut him down, said it wasn't profitable enough. Did he mention anything specific? My recorded voice asked. Just that he was working on something bigger, something that would change everything. But then, the recording trailed off. Then he got sick, Skylar finished softly. A barista approached with fresh coffees. You guys have been here for hours. Everything okay? Just fine, I smiled, sliding some papers over a particularly interesting bank statement. Working on a story. After she left, Skylar lowered her voice. What about Mary? The lawyer must know something. She's being careful, but yesterday she accidentally left this in my mailbox. I pulled out a sticky note with an address scrawled on it. Storage unit? Dad's private office, the one not even Kaya knows about. Skylar's eyes lit up. When are we going? Now. I started packing up my laptop. But first, what do you make of this? I showed her a photo from Dad's last charity gala. He stood with a group of women, all wearing silver pins shaped like keys. Could be nothing, Skylar said, but she was already grabbing her coat, or could be everything. The storage facility was in an industrial part of town, far from the glossy high-rises where Dad had worked. Unit 1313, of course. Your father really had a thing for 13, huh? Skylar commented as I input the code Mary had provided. The metal door rolled up with a groan, revealing walls lined with filing cabinets and a desk covered in papers. The air smelled like leather and old books, just like Dad's study used to. Start with the most recent files, I directed, moving toward the desk. Look for anything about the legacy fund or those silver keys. We worked in focused silence, the only sound the rustling of papers and occasional muttered observations. Then Skylar gasped. Sam, you need to see this. She held up a leather-bound ledger. Inside, page after page listed women's names, dates, and amounts. In the margins were handwritten notes. Supporting daughter through medical school. Funding tech startup. Legal fees for workplace discrimination suit. He was helping them, I whispered. All of them. There's more. Skylar pointed to a sealed envelope taped to the back cover. My name was written on it in Dad's handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a silver key pin, identical to the ones from the photo, and another note, for my daughter who always asks the right questions. Sometimes the greatest legacy isn't what we leave behind, but what we set in motion. The key opens more than just doors. Dad. Sam. Skylar was staring at her phone. You need to see this too. She showed me a news alert. Burke Industries accused of systematic discrimination against female employees, multiple lawsuits pending. The company Kaya just inherited, I said slowly, has been secretly suppressing women while Dad was secretly supporting them. What are you going to do? I picked up the key pin, feeling its weight in my palm. Dad always said a good journalist follows the story wherever it leads. I think it's time to find out exactly what my sister inherited. This could get messy, Skylar warned. It already is. I clipped the pin to my jacket. But Dad left me this story for a reason, and I'm going to tell it. Looking around the room full of secrets, I finally understood. $5 wasn't my inheritance. The truth was, Kaya's inheritance celebration was exactly as tasteless as I expected. The mansion's marble foyer sparkled with champagne fountains and ice sculptures, while waiters circulated with trays of caviar and gold-dusted chocolates. I adjusted my simple black dress, feeling the silver key pin against my collar like armor. Miss, the service entrance is around back. A security guard stopped me at the door. She's my sister, Kaya's voice rang out. Let her in. She floated down the stairs in a dress that probably cost more than my yearly rent. Sam, you actually came, and you're wearing that. Wouldn't miss it, I smiled, noting how the company's top executives clustered around her like moths to a flame. Quite a party. Isn't it divine? Daddy would have loved it. She grabbed a champagne flute from a passing tray. Though maybe not the cost, but who's counting now? If she only knew what I'd discovered in the past week. The systematic discrimination, the buried harassment complaints, the suspicious firing of female executives, all while Dad had been secretly building his network of support for the very women his company had wronged. Speaking of counting, I said carefully, how are those quarterly reports looking? Kaya waved her hand dismissively. Ben handles all that boring stuff now. You remember Ben, right? From the board? Ben Nelson stood across the room, deep in conversation with other suits. The same Ben who'd orchestrated most of the discriminatory policies, according to Dad's files. Oh, I remember Ben. I touched my key pin. How's he adjusting to his new role? He's been amazing, Kaya beamed. Says we'll double profits by next quarter. Though honestly, I tune out when he talks numbers. Oh, you have to see what I'm doing with Daddy's old office. She dragged me upstairs, chattering about Italian marble and custom wallpaper, but I was watching the reactions to my presence, the nervous glances, the whispered conversations. They knew who I was, what I did for a living. We're gutting the whole floor, Kaya announced, throwing open the office door. That awful old desk is already gone. I stopped short. The desk? Dad's desk? That heavy wooden thing? Ben had it removed yesterday, said we needed a more modern look. My heart raced. That desk had hidden compartments. I'd watched Dad access them countless times as a child. Where is it now? Who knows? The salvage company took it. Sam, are you okay? You look weird. A commotion downstairs saved me from responding. We returned to find Ben making a toast. To new beginnings, he raised his glass, eyes fixed on me, and to leaving the past where it belongs. The crowd applauded. I grabbed a champagne flute and raised it back. To legacy, I countered loudly, and to asking the right questions. Ben's smile faltered slightly. Beside me, Kaya frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Just something Dad taught me. I pulled out my phone and showed her the news alert about the lawsuits. Like asking why our father's company has such an interesting pattern of treatment toward female employees. Kaya's face flushed. That's ridiculous. Ben said those claims are baseless. Did he? Interesting. I spotted Talia entering the party. Maybe we should ask her opinion. You invited her? Kaya hissed. She was fired for incompetence. Was she? Or was she fired because she knew too much? You're being dramatic. Kaya grabbed my arm. This is my night, Sam. Don't ruin it with your conspiracy theories. I gently removed her hand. You're right. It is your night, and everything that comes with it. The money, the power, the responsibility. It's all yours now, including whatever's been happening in that company. Is that a threat? No. I headed for the door, pausing to look back at my sister, suddenly seeming small among all her expensive decorations. It's a warning, because I don't think Dad left me $5 and a note just to be cruel. I think he was trying to tell me something. Sam, wait! But I was already walking out, texting Skylar. Need to find that desk. Tonight. My phone buzzed with her response. Already on it. You'll never guess who bought it. Behind me, the party continued, music and laughter spilling into the night. But underneath it all, I could feel something shifting, like the first tremors before an earthquake. Ben's voice carried from inside. Don't worry about her, Kaya. Everything's under control. I touched my key pin again, thinking of all those women in Dad's ledger. No, I whispered, it's really not. You bought Dad's desk? I stared at Mary across her home office, where the massive oak piece now dominated the room. Technically, my husband bought it at auction. She ran her hand along the worn surface. Beautiful craftsmanship. Shame to let it end up in some warehouse. Skylar circled the desk like a detective at a crime scene. The compartments you mentioned. Any idea how to access them? Dad always said the key opens more than just doors. I fingered the silver pin. Mary, did he ever mention... I can't tell you anything specific, she interrupted, but her eyes flickered to a particular spot on the desk. Attorney-client privilege. But I can leave you two alone with this lovely antique for a few minutes while I make coffee. The moment she left, Skylar and I began examining every inch of the desk. The wood was cool under my fingers as I traced the intricate carvings. Here, Skylar pointed to a tiny keyhole, almost invisible within a decorative flourish. Think your pin. The silver key slid in perfectly. With a soft click, a hidden panel sprang open, revealing a USB drive and another envelope. Sam, Mary called from the kitchen. How do you take your coffee? Black is fine. I quickly copied the drive's contents to my laptop, while Skylar photographed the documents from the envelope. We barely finished before Mary returned, carrying a tray. Her knowing smile suggested she'd given us exactly enough time. Find anything interesting? You could say that. I showed her the first document we'd discovered, a detailed report of systematic harassment cover-ups at Burke Industries, complete with dates, names, and amounts paid in hush money. Ben's signature is on everything, Skylar noted, scrolling through the files. He orchestrated the whole thing. And now he's controlling Kaya, I added, using her as a figurehead while he runs the company his way. My phone buzzed, a text from Talia. Need to talk. It's worse than we thought. Meet me at Riverside Park? Go, Mary said, reading my expression. But Sam, be careful. Ben has a lot to lose. 20 minutes later, I found Talia pacing by the river, clutching a manila envelope. I kept copies, she said without preamble. Of everything. The real reason they fired me? I was building a case. Your father was helping me, but then he got sick, I finished. And Ben saw an opportunity. He's been destroying evidence, threatening witnesses. But he missed these. She handed me the envelope. Your father said if anything happened to him, I should find you. Said you'd know what to do. I opened the envelope. Inside were dozens of statements from female employees, detailed accounts of discrimination, photos, emails, a paper trail of corruption that led straight to the top. There's more, Talia said. Ben's planning to sell off the company's charitable foundation, the one your father used to help women start their own businesses. Over my dead body, I pulled out my phone, dialing my editor's number. Time to write the story. Ben will fight back, Talia warned. Let him. I thought of Kaya, surrounded by sycophants at her party. My sister needs to see the truth, even if it hurts. Back at my apartment, Skylar helped me organize the evidence while I wrote. Hours blurred together as we built the case, connecting dots Dad had left for us to find. At 3 a.m., my phone rang. Kaya. Is it true? Her voice was shaky. Ben just called an emergency board meeting. Said you're planning to publish some ridiculous expose. It's all true, Kaya, every word. Check your email. I just sent you the draft. Silence stretched between us as she read. Then quietly, there are women I know on this list. Women who trusted the company, who trusted us. What do I do? She sounded young suddenly, uncertain. Ben says he'll handle it, but remember what Dad always said about handling things? Face the truth head on, she quoted softly, even when it hurts. Exactly. I took a deep breath. The story goes live in 6 hours. You need to decide which side of it you want to be on. Sam, She paused. I need to think. After she hung up, Skylar looked at me. Think she'll do the right thing? I don't know. I turned back to my laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard. But Dad believed in giving people the chance to choose. That's what this whole elaborate plan was about. And if she chooses wrong? I thought of the ledger full of women's names, of Dad's secret support network, of the silver key that had unlocked more than just a desk. Then we do what journalists do, I said, starting to type. We tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may. The sun was rising as I wrote the final line, its light catching the silver key pin still on my collar. In 6 hours, everything would change. I just hoped Kaya was ready for what was coming. The story broke like a tsunami. Within hours of publication, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Social media exploded, and news vans crowded outside Burke Industries headquarters. Your article has over 1 million shares, Skylar announced, refreshing her screen. And Burke Truth is trending. I was about to respond when my office door burst open. Ben stormed in, his face red with rage, waving a printout of my article. You little snake, he snarled. Do you have any idea what you've done? Exposed the truth? I stood my ground as he loomed over my desk. Or did you think those women would stay silent forever? I've already called my lawyers. This piece is nothing but lies and speculation. Really? I pulled up the audio recorder on my phone. Want to explain that to the 12 former employees who went on record? Or should we discuss the evidence from Dad's desk? His face paled slightly. Your father was a fool who let sentiment cloud his business judgment. My father, I said quietly, was a better person than you'll ever be. We'll see how righteous you feel when I'm done with you. He jabbed a finger at me. I'm going to what, Ben? Kaya's voice cut through the tension. She stood in the doorway, holding a tablet displaying my article. Threaten my sister like you threatened all those other women? Ben's demeanor instantly changed. Kaya, sweetheart, don't let her manipulate you. This is just jealousy over the inheritance. Stop. Kaya's voice cracked. I've spent the last 6 hours reading everything. The lawsuits, the settlements, the threats. I found the files you thought you'd deleted. Whatever you think you found, I found the truth. She stepped into the office. And now I'm finding my backbone. You don't understand business, Ben sneered. Your father knew that. Why do you think he put me in charge? He didn't, I interjected. Show him, Kaya. With trembling hands, Kaya produced a document. My inheritance came with conditions. Dad left me controlling interest, but with a clause. Any major decisions require board approval. Care to guess who he designated as the deciding vote? The Women's Foundation, I smiled. The one you were planning to dissolve. Ben lunged for the paper, but Kaya pulled it back. Security is on their way up, Ben. along with some people from the DA's office. "You're making a mistake," he growled. "Both of you." "No," Kaya's voice strengthened. "The mistake was letting you turn Dad's legacy into this. You're fired, Ben. Effective immediately." The security team arrived, accompanied by two serious-looking individuals with badges. As they led Ben away, his threats echoed down the hallway. Once he was gone, Kaya collapsed into a chair. "I feel sick." "You did the right thing," I said softly. "Did I? The stock is plummeting. The board is in chaos. Everyone's calling for investigations." She looked up at me, eyes wet. "What do we do now?" "We?" I raised an eyebrow. "I know I don't deserve your help. I've been horrible, wrapped up in myself, blind to everything that mattered to Dad." She pulled out a familiar envelope. "But I found this in his study last night." Inside was another silver key pin and a note. "For my daughter, who must learn to see beyond the surface. Your sister knows the way." "He left us both keys," Kaya whispered. "He knew we'd need each other." My phone buzzed. Talia was calling. "The women from the foundation are gathering," she said when I answered. "They want to help rebuild." I put the phone on speaker. "All those women Dad helped over the years? They're offering support, expertise, connections. They want to honor his legacy the right way." "A network of women helping women," Kaya mused. "Like Dad always wanted." "Exactly." I touched my key pin. "But it'll take both of us, your business skills, my investigative instincts, and a whole lot of apologies from me." Kaya stood up, squaring her shoulders. "Starting with Talia. Will you help me fix this, Sam?" Through the office windows, I could see the media circus below, the story still unfolding. But for the first time since Dad's death, I felt like I could see the bigger picture he'd planned all along. "That's what sisters are for," I said, offering her my hand. "Ready to face the press?" She clipped on her key pin, a match to mine. "Ready to face everything." As we headed for the elevator, Kaya paused. "Sam, thank you for not giving up on the truth. Or on me." "Dad never gave up on either," I replied. "Now let's go make him proud." The elevator doors opened to chaos, reporters shouting questions, cameras flashing. But standing shoulder to shoulder with my sister, both wearing our silver keys, I knew we were finally asking the right questions. And more importantly, we were ready to find the answers together. "I'm selling the mansion," Kaya announced, dropping a stack of papers on my desk. 2 weeks had passed since Ben's arrest, and each day brought new revelations about the company's past. "You're what?" I looked up from the latest batch of emails from women coming forward with their stories. "It's too much." She sank into the chair across from me. "The marble fountains, the 12 bedrooms, the tennis court. Dad never wanted any of that. I was just trying to prove something." "To whom?" "Everyone. Myself." She twisted her silver key pin. "You know what I found in my wing of the house yesterday? 3 pairs of the same shoes, tags still on. Who needs 3 identical pairs of $1,000 shoes?" "The old Kaya did," I said gently. "The old Kaya was an idiot." She rubbed her temples. "The foundation needs funding for the new mentorship program. The mansion could cover it for years." Before I could respond, Talia burst in. "You need to see this." She turned on the office TV, where Ben's face filled the screen. "Burke Industries has lost its way," he was saying from the steps of the courthouse. "These accusations are a coordinated attack by bitter former employees and a vindictive heiress. I've done nothing wrong." "Turn it up," Kaya whispered. "Furthermore," Ben continued, "I have evidence that Solomon Burke himself authorized every decision I made. His daughters are destroying his legacy with their misguided crusade." "That lying?" Kaya started to rise, but I grabbed her arm. "Wait for it." Right on cue, Mary appeared on screen, approaching the microphones. "As Mr. Burke's former attorney, I have been authorized to release certain documents that directly contradict these claims." "You knew?" Kaya turned to me. "Mary called this morning. Dad left a sealed envelope with explicit instructions. If anyone ever tried to blame him for the discrimination, release everything." We watched as Mary methodically dismantled Ben's claims, producing document after document showing Dad's opposition to the discriminatory policies. "In fact," Mary concluded, Mr. Burke spent years building a secret support network for the very women his company was failing, a network his daughters are now bringing into the light. The reporters erupted with questions, but Ben had already fled into a waiting car. "He's scared," Talia observed. "Good." Kaya stood up, straightening her blazer. A simple one now, not the designer labels she used to wear. "Because we're just getting started." My phone chimed with a message from Skylar. "Meeting room, now. Big news." We found her surrounded by printouts, practically vibrating with excitement. "Remember those 13-cent transfers?" I finally cracked the pattern. She spread out a complex chart. Each amount corresponded to a woman in need. But the 13 cents? It was a code. Every transfer had a matching donation to a separate account. "How much?" I asked. "Millions." Skylar grinned. "All perfectly legal, all documented. Your father built a shadow fund right under everyone's noses." "But where's the money now?" Kaya asked. The door opened and Mary walked in, fresh from her press conference. "That's where I come in." She placed a heavy folder on the table. "Your father left very specific instructions. The fund was to remain secret until both his daughters wore the silver keys. Only then would its true purpose be revealed." "Which is," I prompted, "to transform Burke Industries into what it should have been all along, a force for change. The fund doesn't just have money. It has controlling interests in dozens of companies, all led by women your father helped over the years." Kaya sank into a chair. "All this time, while I was planning parties, he was planning a revolution," I finished. "But he needed both of you," Mary explained. "Samantha's determination to uncover truth and Kaya's business acumen. Together, you can rebuild this company into something extraordinary." "If you're willing to work together," Talia added. Kaya looked at me, tears in her eyes. "I've been so awful to you. You're making up for it now." I squeezed her hand. "That's what matters." "Ladies," Skylar interrupted, pointing to her laptop. "Twitter's exploding. Someone leaked photos of Ben meeting with known corporate raiders. They're planning a hostile takeover." "Let them try," Kaya said, standing straighter. "We have something they don't." "What's that?" Talia asked. Kaya touched her silver key, matching mine. "Each other, and an army of women who aren't hiding anymore." "So," I smiled, "what's our next move?" "First," Kaya pulled out her phone, "I'm calling the real estate agent. That mansion is going to serve a better purpose than hosting my parties." "And then?" She looked around the room at our growing team of allies. "Then we show them what happens when women stop competing and start collaborating." Mary nodded approvingly. "Your father would be proud." He knew, I realized. He knew we'd need to lose everything to find what really mattered. "Including each other," Kaya added softly. Outside, the sun was setting on another day of changes, but for the first time, the chaos felt right. We had a plan, a purpose, and most importantly, we had each other. Ben wanted a war? Fine. He was about to learn what two sisters with their father's fighting spirit could really do. The boardroom crackled with tension as Ben strutted in with his team of corporate raiders. His smirk faltered when he saw the packed room, dozens of women wearing silver key pins, seated alongside the board members. "This is a closed meeting," he snapped. "Actually," Kaya rose from the head of the table, "these women are all shareholders. Thanks to Dad's shadow fund, they own significant portions of Burke Industries." I couldn't help but smile at his confusion. "Remember all those women you pushed out? Turns out Dad made sure they'd have a voice when it mattered most." "Impossible," Ben sputtered. "I've seen the shareholder records." "The public ones, sure." Talia stepped forward, distributing documents. "But Mr. Burke was quite clever with his shell companies and trust funds." "This is ridiculous," one of Ben's raiders objected. "We have agreements with major stockholders." "Had agreements," Mary corrected, entering with another stack of papers. "Those stockholders received some very interesting information about your past dealings this morning. They've reconsidered their positions." Ben's face reddened. "You can't..." "Can't what?" Kaya interrupted. "Protect our father's company? Support the women you victimized? Watch. She nodded to Skylar, who clicked a remote. The boardroom screen lit up with a presentation. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, Kaya began, I present the future of Burke Industries. The next 30 minutes were a masterclass in preparation. Kaya outlined a complete company restructuring, emphasizing ethical leadership and women's empowerment, backed by solid financial projections and support from major investors. The mansion's sale alone funds the first year of our mentorship program, she explained, and our partnership with the Women's Foundation. This is business, not charity, Ben cut in desperately. It's both, I stood up, and we have proof it works. I gestured to the women around the table. Every person here represents a success story. Entrepreneurs, executives, leaders who thrived when given the chance. Dad saw their potential. Now everyone else will too. The vote is simple, Kaya concluded. Continue with the old model, or embrace a future where profit and purpose coexist. Choose wisely. Ben slammed his hand on the table. This company will fail under your leadership. Like it failed when you drove out talented women? Talia asked. When you covered up harassment? When you prioritized greed over growth? I built this company. No, a quiet voice interrupted. All heads turned to the door where an elderly board member stood. Solomon built this company. I've served on this board for 40 years, watched him nurture his vision. And today, for the first time since his death, I see that vision clearly again. One by one, the board members began to nod. Ben's raiders shifted uncomfortably. The vote, Kaya announced, is now open. The next few minutes were tense as votes were cast electronically. When the results appeared on screen, Ben's face went ashen. Unanimous, Mary declared. The restructuring plan is approved. Mr. Nelson's takeover bid is rejected. This isn't over, Ben threatened, gathering his papers. Actually, it is. 2 police officers entered the room. Benjamin Nelson, you're under arrest for securities fraud and witness tampering. As they led him away, his final shouts echoed down the hall. You'll regret this. No, Kaya whispered. I only regret not seeing the truth sooner. The room erupted in applause and congratulations. Women who had once been forced out of the company were now hugging, crying, celebrating their return to power. There's one more thing, I announced, pulling out an envelope. Dad left this with Mary, to be opened when the company was safe. Inside was a single photograph. Dad in his office, much younger, with Kaya and me as children. We were both wearing plastic toy keys as necklaces, playing at being business ladies. He knew, Kaya's voice cracked. Even back then he was preparing us. For this exact moment, Mary added, when his daughters would unlock the company's true potential. Talia approached with champagne. To the new Burke Industries. As glasses clinked and plans were made, I watched Kaya work the room. Gone was the superficial party girl, replaced by a confident leader who knew her worth wasn't measured in designer labels. We did it, Skylar appeared at my side. The story's coming full circle. Not quite, I smiled, touching my key pin. This is just the first chapter. Kaya caught my eye across the room and raised her glass. In that moment, I saw what Dad had always seen. 2 sisters with different strengths but the same heart, ready to carry his legacy forward. To asking the right questions, Kaya called out. And finding the right answers, I finished. The boardroom filled with the sound of clinking glasses and renewed purpose. Outside, the press would be waiting for statements about Ben's arrest and the company's transformation. But for now, we celebrated not just a victory, but a vindication of Dad's faith in us. His $5 inheritance had bought something priceless, the truth that set everything right. Ready? Kaya adjusted my key pin, which had become slightly crooked during the morning's chaos. Born ready. I smoothed down my blazer, smiling at our matching silver keys. Though public speaking was always more your thing. We stood backstage at the company's annual shareholders meeting, but this one was different. The auditorium buzzed with energy, packed with faces both familiar and new, women who'd been part of Dad's secret network, now stepping into the light. Your father would be proud, Mary whispered, joining us with last-minute documents. Both the company's profits and its impact metrics have exceeded all projections. Imagine that, I grinned. Doing good actually makes good business sense. 5 minutes, Skylar called out, tablet in hand. Social media is already trending. Everyone wants to know what the Burke sisters are announcing today. Kaya squeezed my hand. Think Ben will be watching from prison? Probably, along with everyone else who said we'd fail. Talia rushed over with breaking news on her phone. The last lawsuit was just settled. All victims will be compensated, and the company's new harassment prevention program is being hailed as an industry standard. Perfect timing, Kaya nodded. Sam, you're up first. I walked onto the stage to enthusiastic applause, the spotlight warm on my face. Good morning. A year ago, I stood in a lawyer's office, holding a $5 bill and a cryptic note from my father. Today, I'm here to tell you what that $5 really bought. The screen behind me filled with images, women receiving business grants, mentorship meetings, new corporate policies being signed into effect. It bought truth, justice, change. But most importantly, it bought something my father knew we'd need: perspective. The perspective to see that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in lives improved. Kaya joined me on stage, which is why we're excited to announce the launch of the Solomon Burke Foundation for Women in Business. Every woman who receives support will get their own silver key pin, becoming part of a growing network of mutual support and empowerment. But that's not all, I continued. We're also announcing a partnership with 12 other major corporations to implement similar programs. The ripple effect starts today. The audience erupted in cheers. In the front row, I spotted the elderly board member who'd supported us that crucial day, tears in his eyes as he applauded. Our father left us a choice, Kaya addressed the crowd. We could compete with each other or complete each other. We chose completion, and that has made all the difference. After the presentation, we gathered in Dad's old office, now a shared space for the Foundation's leadership team. The desk had been restored to its rightful place, its hidden compartments now holding new secrets, new plans for the future. I have something for you both, Mary said, producing a small package. Your father left this with very specific instructions, to be opened only when you'd proven you could work together. Inside was a framed photo of Dad with our mother, taken at the company's founding. They both wore silver keys. The original keys, Mary explained. Your mother was his first partner in the mission to empower women in business. He always said the company had two hearts, profit and purpose, like his two daughters. Look at the back, Skylar pointed. A handwritten note was taped to the frame. To my girls, now you understand why $5 was enough. Some inheritances can't be measured in money. Love, Dad. He knew, Kaya whispered. He knew we'd figure it out. Eventually, I laughed, wiping my eyes. A knock at the door interrupted us. Talia with more good news. The mentorship applications are flooding in. Women from all over the country want to be part of this. Then let's not keep them waiting, Kaya said. We've got work to do. As everyone filed out to celebrate, I lingered by Dad's desk, touching the worn wood that had hidden so many secrets. You coming? Kaya asked, pausing at the door. Just thinking about that $5 bill. I kept it, you know. Of course you did, she smiled. The journalist never throws away evidence. Want to know what I finally did with it? What? I opened the desk drawer and pulled out a small frame. Inside was the $5 bill, mounted alongside Dad's note about asking the right questions. Perfect, Kaya nodded. A reminder of where we started, and who helped us get here. I hung it on the wall beside the photo of our parents. Ready to go change more lives? With my sister by my side? Kaya linked her arm through mine. Always. We walked out together, our silver keys catching the light. Outside, a new generation of women waited to receive their own keys, to unlock their own potential. Dad's legacy lived on, not in the money he left behind, but in the truth he helped us discover, that the greatest inheritance is the power to make a difference. And that was worth far more than $5.